All right. Good morning, everyone. It is bright and early. We are settling in for a good half day session of training today. Thanks for being here with us. We have a few people we're waiting on to join, so go ahead and get settled. If y'all want to test out the chat box, say hi, tell us where you're from, and if you are enjoying a morning beverage, what are you drinking today? So hopefully it's some water because it is hot outside. All right. Oh, I see somebody is having a homemade mocha, which sounds amazing. And a morning protein shake with their mushroom coffee. My mom has been trying to get me turned on to mushroom coffee these last few weeks, so she tried it out. So, yeah. Coffee in a Bucky's cup. That's so summer that I feel like Roman's gonna be going on a road trip. Right, Sarah, our neighbor down the road here in San Angelo. Okay, all right. So we'll go ahead and take care of just a little bit of housekeeping. I know we are staying on for a little extra time this morning, but our session is going to fly by. I have looked at Lavinia's slides, and today's session is going to be pretty interactive. So, for those of y'all that haven't met me, my name is Crystal Garcia. I am TASA's Community Education Specialist, and I will be hosting our webinar today, taking care of all your tech support and all the logistics while Lavinia is presenting. Good morning from San Angelo, where it's already hot. My son got his first job today, so he is going in to make snow cones, and I've already asked if he could go ahead and just start bringing snow cones home. All my money's gonna start going to the Bahama Bucks down the road, because that's what happens when teenagers get jobs. And just a few other housekeeping things for today's session. We have a long Changemaker series in front of us. For July, we are going to have 3 sessions. So you will see on the screen our next session after Lavinia finishes today is going to be hosted by Melissa, who is going to be talking to us about from believing to supporting understanding survivor autonomy and choice. So her session will be focusing on how do we truly move survivors from we believe you, thank you for telling me this information, to that true partnership where survivors have the autonomy and the ability to make the best choices for themselves. Because we often think, if I was a survivor, I would do this in this situation. So really learning how to truly support from the perspective of allowing survivors to have the ability to make the choices that are best for them. So she promises us practical real world skills, learning to catch ourselves when we slip into fixing mode, which I can always use more training on, and then working on these values at home and at work because it definitely applies everywhere. So her session is going to be a lunch and learn. So there is a typo on her screen, it is not July 1st, it is July 8th, and it will be starting at 11 to 12:30. So when you click on or scan that QR code, the time is correct in there. I just did not notice that the slide had a typo on it, but that is next Wednesday. Grab some lunch and join us for a 1.5 hour lunch and learn with Melissa. And then our next presenter, my screen is frozen, is going to be a good friend and coworker, Mr. Jesse Salazar. Jesse is a survivor and a trained law enforcement Texas peace officer. So it's pretty rare that we get someone who is coming from both perspectives with us. So he's going to be talking about male survivors. We are going back to the half-day format for him because he has quite a bit. He's an internationally known law enforcement trainer, so he's going to be talking with us about justice, support, and healing. He's going to be providing a half-day lecture on male survivors. So this one will have an investigation focus, a lot of skills for interviewing male survivors. So any of us that have worked with male survivors know our interviewing skills do need to change. There's a lot of stigma that male survivors face, even coming forward to talk to trained professionals that are there to help them. It's very different for them to come forward and work with us. So there's a law enforcement focus here. This is a great one for SARTs. This is a great one for law enforcement, investigators, advocates, all of us that are going to be interacting with male survivors. So he comes from quite a bit of long-term, 20 years law enforcement experience, as well as talking about his own experiences and being a male survivor. So we are going to have a really packed month. That session's going to be on July 29th from 9 a.m. to noon. All of our sessions this month are going to have free CEUs. So if you attend all of those, that's 7.5 hours of training, which is quite a lot to be able to report in for those of you that are licensing or license holders. And we will provide certificates for all of those sessions. So to register for either Melissa's session or Jesse's session, you're going to visit bit.ly.com/Tasha Changemaker, and then you will do the underscore mark and then type in the name of the presenter, and that will take you to their registration. Or you can scan the QR codes, or I will also be posting the registration links in the chat box as we get closer to the end of today's session. So, like I said, Lavinia's session today is going to be a half day. We're going to be spending the morning together here till lunchtime. But one of the things I did want to give you all a chance to prepare for, she has lots of interactive journaling exercises for us. We do, and we will continue to have your microphones enabled. However, we will keep the cameras off for ease of use for all of us. So just remind ourselves to participate in those journaling exercises. I actually worked through some of those last night in preparing for the session. Some of those are very, very powerful. So also, as a reminder, take care of yourself through the session today, because these will open up some things for us as people who are also working with survivors and survivors themselves. But her session today is designed to be very reflective. Grab a pen, some paper, some crayons, whatever you like to journal with. If you have a fancy journal or just scrap paper that's laying around on your desk like me, I am a post-it queen. So I write everything down on post-its. However you want to work through those exercises is up to you. But we do kindly encourage you to participate. We will also be posting the slides in the chat box today. Hopefully that sharing link will work. Y'all can download those to follow along. They'll be up on the screen. We'll be typing them into the chat box. And then if you want a copy of those as well for yourself to keep to reference later, you'll be able to take those with you today. So I think that is it for housekeeping duties. Lots of sessions to sign up for. August will be just as packed, so keep those save the dates for August. Wednesdays in August, we will also be back. And then with that said, I'm going to turn things over to Lavinia to go ahead and get us started for the day.
Thank you, Crystal, and thank you everyone for joining us. Crystal, like she said, will be handling the chat box because I can't do the back and forth. So I'm here. I appreciate everyone joining me this morning as we enter this session. And I hope you're ready for 3 hours of me. I promise I will try to make it interesting and fun. I don't know if I should use my side job of cracking jokes for you to make you laugh in the morning time, but we'll see what happens. So beyond the silence, healing boundaries and the courage to become whole um, is a presentation that I'm going to go through this morning. If I knew this was going to happen, my phone works for me from my notes. So, starting out with the description today, many people believe that healing begins when the trauma ends. The truth is, healing only often begins when the silence ends. And for many years, many survivors carry wounds that are never spoken aloud. They learn to function from hurting, smile when struggling, and serve others while neglecting themselves. Yet true healing requires more than survival. It requires honesty, boundaries, self-discovery, and courage to become whole. This extended 3-hour master class creates space not only for learning, but for reflection, restoration, and practical application. Through personal storytelling, informed education, guided exercises, journaling, group discussions, and moments of restoration, participants should examine the impact of unresolved trauma, develop healthier boundaries, and begin creating a roadmap toward emotional wholeness. This webinar is also designed not to serve only just survivors of trauma, but also professionals who walk along beside them, such as yourselves. There will be law enforcement officers, advocates, and members of the justice system. Healing and justice are deeply interconnected, and understanding trauma is essential for creating safer, more compassionate, and more effective responses to those impacted by violence and adversity. And so for survivors, this experience offers tools for healing, self-awareness, and empowerment. For my professionals, it provides critical insight into how trauma shapes behavior, communication, decision making insight that can transform interactions, improve outcomes, and reduce re-traumatization, which is very important. So when law enforcement advocates and justice system professionals are equipped with trauma-informed knowledge, they are better able to build trust, support recovery, and to carry out their roles with greater empathy and effectiveness at the same time. This work also supports their own self-well-being by addressing the emotional toll that comes with serving others. Your participation in this webinar is not just beneficial, it's essential. And together we can create a more informed, compassionate, and responsive system that honors both healing and justice. So we're going to dive right in. And first of all, I just want to say, I'm sorry. First of all, I'm having to go from my phone to read my notes because I don't have my dual screens. But first of all, I want to say good morning once again. And I want to simply say thank you. Thank you for investing in yourself today. Thank you for choosing healing. And thank you for believing your life still has purpose. This isn't just another training. This isn't just another lecture. This is a conversation, a space to learn, a space to think, a space to breathe, and a space to heal. Today, we will care for ourselves, and how we will care for one another. We will show ourselves some grace. We will respect one another and ourselves. We will have confidentiality in this conversation, permission to pause, make sure we take self-care, take care of ourselves, and there is absolutely no expectation for you to share your story if any of you have stories today. So my first thing I want to ask you is, how did you arrive today? Think about it for a moment. Were you hopeful when you logged on? Were you overwhelmed? Are you in the process of healing? You feel like you're healing? You're exhausted? I know that burnout is real. Working in this work sometimes, especially if you are a survivor such as myself, you feel like you're searching for something. What direction am I really going in at this moment? Do you feel like you're actually experiencing growth? You're growing in your work, you're growing in yourself, you find yourself blooming beyond the trauma or the effects of working with survivors of sexual violence. Do you feel numb right now? Just be real with your emotions. How did you arrive today? Or you're just basically unsure? I don't know yet. I have to get I have to get some hours in, or I got a lot going on, Lavinia, right now. I just don't know. But think about that. How did you arrive today? And just know that whatever your answer is welcome. And understand that that very question changed my life. So, and this is like a reflection moment. How many versions of yourself have you simply created to survive? Have you thought about that? How many versions of yourself to get through? If you're a survivor, surviving, if you're just an advocate in this work, law enforcement, crisis center, working with survivors, how many versions of yourself have you created simply to survive that? Because as Crystal said, and we all know, this work is a heavy work. It's a heavy load in the instance to take in someone else's trauma, not let alone the trauma I've experienced myself, but sometimes I have to find myself reliving, going back into those spaces. So I asked myself, how many versions of yourself have you simply created to try to survive? Don't say anything, just be quiet and think about it. Just think about it. So to jump in with my story, give you a little bit background of me. July 31st, 1985 was the night that I had to really figure out what survival was. That was the night that those that know my story, I don't want to go into too many details because I don't want to be too triggering, but I was violently assaulted in the privacy of my home by a stranger that came in through a window and assaulted me at knife point. The cycles that I went through after that was nothing that I would wish on anyone. And I had to learn how to survive. And my mode of survival went through silence. And those moments of silence was devastating for me because I needed my voice to be heard because I wanted justice. And then I went to finally speaking about it. In that timeline, I can't tell you how painful that was even to begin to speak, but it took years into adulthood before I started speaking. And then once I started speaking, I realized I had to begin a healing process. I didn't know what healing looked like. And that's one of the reasons why we're here today, so we can at least assist survivors in the process of get them on a pathway of understanding of what healing is and how healing benefits them in the process of going from something so heinous as sexual violence and the phases that we go through of silent speaking, then to begin to heal. After I started my healing processes, then I began to do my advocacy. I wanted to give back. I was not looking to, uh, as many know, the Lavinia Masters Act. I wasn't looking for something in my name. I was looking to pour back into others because I realized that that journey of being a victim of going from sexual violence was very painful, and it seemed very alone, isolated. I didn't think anybody understood me. I didn't even realize that others had went through the same thing that I had went through because we didn't talk about such things in those times. And so when I began my advocacy, I wanted to pour back and I wanted to sift and find those other lonely voices, or those other lonely voices out there who couldn't speak or who didn't realize they had the voice to speak. And I wanted them to see through me that if we unite this work and we unite our voices, that we can make a sound that would be so loud that we would change the world and how the world looks at sexual violence and how we treat victims of sexual violence and so forth. So that's been one of my life journeys and my advocacy role. And I absolutely still love that aspect of it. But with my advocacy led to justice. And although I couldn't, my perpetrator did not serve justice for my crimes, he is serving justice for being a sexual predator and so much more. And knowing that other survivors will receive justice because of the Lavinia Masters Act is more than enough justice for me. And so with this work and this journey and my story, I learned that this was my purpose. And to some that may sound insane to say that you went through something so tragic to find purpose in it. I am absolutely comfortable in that as a survivor with that lived experience because I can give so much more and offer so much more hope to those who don't think that there is life after this type of trauma. And I not only help survivors, but I give so much hope to those that work in this field, law enforcement, the justice system, to not only show them the aspect of a survivor, but how we can build our community together. And so that's what we're doing here today. We're building this community to work together with survivors, and building those bridges is so important to me because you guys know the story of survivors not coming forward, not wanting to share, not trusting the system, not trusting law enforcement, and so much more. So to me, it's so important that those that have the lived experience and who take the proper training and go through the proper avenues of trying to do the healing, advocating and giving back, is so important that our voices are also heard. So that's another reason I get so excited about TASA and how they allow these opportunities for us to give back and give these classes to not only other survivors, but to the community, which is you. And so that's my purpose now. That is my entire purpose, going from survival to purpose. And God's grace made a way absolutely for me. So what is silence? I want to ask you, what is silence? Silence is something that, as a victim of sexual violence, is something that I went through. Our victims, I'm pretty sure, go through that. Not just sexual violence. Anything can be traumatic in your life as a crisis worker. If you experience something as such sexual violence, but anything that is traumatic to you sometimes will cause silence in your life. The fear, the shame, people pleasing, embarrassment, survival, isolation, secrets. It's like so much is put upon us. We don't understand. At 13, I did not understand. I could not dissect. I couldn't navigate through any of this. So I just remained silent. And my family didn't talk about it. They didn't have answers for me, I'm assuming, or they didn't know how to address it. We didn't have the opportunities of counseling or therapists or what have you. So we just fall into this dark abyss, like the picture is there. It's just silence, and then I'm trying to please people still. I'm ashamed of what happened to me. And it's like now I'm learning to hold on to secrets that don't belong to me because we're not speaking of these things. And I feel isolated. Nobody else is going through what I'm going through or have been through. And unfortunately, the entire world has been affected by sexual violence. But when you are a victim and no one explains or talk these things through to you, you feel like it's an isolated incident, and you go into that survival mode. You go into embarrassment because now you feel that it's something that I may have done. I may have caused this to happen to me. So now I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed to talk about the things that happened to me. I'm embarrassed now because, this is personal. This is private. And I'm having to explain this and say somebody took something from me that didn't belong to them. So you have that embarrassment. Of course, fear kicks in. And with that fear of the unknown, not knowing who your perpetrator was, the fear of believing that when he said he would come back and kill you and your entire family if you reported it, it was so much. And all of that kicks you right into silence. And we wonder sometimes, why is she holding back, or why didn't you speak up, or why didn't you say anything? You have to think of all the factors that go into this and that causes a victim of sexual violence to fall into silence. And this is important with law enforcement and in the justice system to understand this about survivors and what they go through, because if not, this is where that whole attitude of not believing or seem like you're interrogating a survivor versus interviewing them about the crimes or the things that happened to them. You have to understand the mindset and the trauma that comes at the aftermath of sexual violence, and it will lead to silence. And I know some people say you should run, you should tell, you should do this, but it's not always that easy. That is easier said than done. And so silence is a dark and lonely place for survivors of sexual violence. So today's journey, we are going to start on what we will discover today is that trauma changes us. at a price we hate to go through at times. Sometimes we can't even afford it, but we have no choice. So we're going to discover that the cost of silence, that trauma changes us. We're going to learn about healthy boundaries, healing, and wholeness. And you don't have to figure out your whole life today. Just start making the steps is what I want us to focus on. And so those are the professionals that haven't been through any type of trauma such as this. Hopefully this will help you better understand it. It will help you in your work as you work with survivors, and even you may assist them with navigating or dropping little nuggets for them. So we're going to do a journal prompt. We're going to pause and take a journal prompt. And in this journal prompt, we're going to finish this sentence for today. Today, whatever, you're going to write in, and your next prompt is, I hope I leave with. So we're going to allow you about 3 to 4 minutes. And if we can play this music, we're going to let you take your pens and paper. I can't see anything, so I'm just assuming Crystal is doing her magic, and I'm going to do this music while we do our little journal prompt. If I can find it.
I was just a little girl with stars inside my eyes, trusting every voice that told me love would keep me safe at night. But the hands that held my world became the storm inside my sky. And I learned too young that sometimes love and pain can live side by side. I kept asking heaven, did you see what they have done? Did you turn your face away when the battle had begun? The silence felt so heavy, like no one heard my cry. But survival whispered softly, you are still alive. When the ones who were my shelter became the rain and wind, I thought abandonment was where my life would end. But the author of my story had not misplaced my name. And even in the ashes, I could feel a flame. When the ones who were supposed to protect you were the pain, and your childhood felt like thunder wrapped in chains. When the house that should have covered you was standing in the flames, heaven sent reinforcements, and you rose anyway. You rose anyway. I carried shame that wasn't mine, wore guilt like second skin, learned to guard my fragile heart from ever trusting again. If love looked like betrayal, I'd rather stand alone. Build my walls so high, no one else could call it home. But God began to whisper through the cracks inside my soul. Broken roots don't stop the seed from reaching toward the sun.
Right. Everybody got a chance to do their prompts. And just know that healing, we don't have to respond to those journals just now. I just want you to write and think about it and put us in a space where we can trust one another and know that we are in a safe space, and we can begin to open up and think about not only survivors, think about ourselves, think about the work that we do and how we impact, influence, and encourage and eventually empower survivors of sexual violence. So healing doesn't begin because the pain disappeared. It begins because hope returned. We're going to jump into module 2. What we don't say still speaks. Silence may protect us from the moment, but it often prevents us from healing from a lifetime. And by the end of this module, hopefully we will recognize silence as a trauma response rather than a personal weakness. You are not weak because you are silent or you did not speak. We will identify the emotional, physical, relational, and spiritual costs of prolonged silence and begin exploring one area of our lives where breaking silence could support us. Before we understand healing, we have to understand that silence has been doing what has been doing to us. Silence is not our enemy. For many of us, silence was the only thing that helped us survive. Children are not born believing that they should stay silent. Somewhere along the way, many of us learned that silence felt safer than speaking. So even with myself, I felt that it was much safer to just be quiet about it because I didn't have any answers. And after we encountered law enforcement at 13 years old, at that moment, I didn't realize that they didn't really believe me. But as I got older, I felt they didn't believe me because of the questions they asked me. And one of them, I don't want to say all of them because they are triggering, but one of them was, am I sure I didn't let the guy in the window? So it was very devastating to hear those 3 questions they asked me, but I didn't, the concept of not believing was not something I understood until I got older and I didn't hear anything. And so you learn silence because you have that fear, those fears, now of what somebody believes me. Do I even believe myself? The fear of being rejected, the fear of losing family, because some of us, the perpetrators, were family members. It would destroy our family if I tell the truth. The fear of conflict, coming forward, will this person come back for me if it was someone I was in college with or an individual I've known? The system itself, the fear of retaliation, will they come back for me? Will they scandalize my name? So much more, the shame of it, the guilt, and these things that we carry, the embarrassment, the cultural expectations, the different cultures, what you speak and what you don't speak. Some cultures still judge you on how you dress. Women covering themselves, you were uncovered. Spiritual confusion. Those that are spiritual do things in a faith way, such as myself. Those things, spiritual can be confusing. Why, God? Why did you let this happen to me? I'm angry with you now. Survival, and it's just part of surviving. We just, it's quiet. It's better for us to stay to ourselves. So silence is a survival strategy. And display 2 columns that I go over here. So we're not born to be silent. As a matter of fact, a baby is born screaming, making noises. You slap it on the butt to make sure everything is okay. So we're not born to be silent, but after something so traumatic as this, we fall into that silence and looking at our communities and looking at the world and how they address sexual violence and not really speaking about it. It puts you back in that space of remaining silent. And that's one of the reasons it's so important to me that I won't shut up. I won't be quiet about it because I don't want to see the world be silent again. Did someone say anything? I'm sorry. I thought I heard something. So the double edge of silence. Silence can protect us, but it can also steal from us. On one side, we have that silence protected me from immediate danger, more abuse, judgment, conflict, feeling vulnerable. But what silence cost me, on the other hand, was my peace, my joy, my trust, healthy relationships, because I could not maintain those at all. My confidence was shot in my voice. And the thing about that now is when I realized that uh, it was costing me so much more than what it protected me from, I had to fight for that. I had to fight for my peace. And my peace is so important as a survivor, because when you live in a victim mentality or you've been victimized, you you're never settled. You're everywhere. It's everything is like chaos to you. Uh the paranoia and so much more. I could no longer live that way. And it cost me that for so long. And my joy, I couldn't get excited. Everything was a mask for me. There was no true smiles. There was nothing genuine about how, my joy was. It was just like, oh, well, show up, put on a face, exit the stage, just pretend like everything is okay, even though I was dying on the inside. Trust, not being able to trust anyone is not a good feeling at all. Just looking at an individual, labeling people, misunderstanding people, judging people that you shouldn't even judge. This is what happens when you're not what it costs you to violate your trust. Healthy relationships, could not keep those or maintain those at all. I would love to say that I love detaching from people. And really, I found that many were detaching from me because they didn't understand me. That's what that silence, because I would not explain what I had really went through or what I was going through, not just the sexual assault, but the childhood sexual abuse, the college incident, and so much more. And this just called me to go into a deeper rabbit hole of silence. Confidence. I didn't believe in myself anymore. I struggled with a lot of things, my own belief system. The things I was trained as a child, that you can be anything that you want to be when you grow up. You can do this, you can do that. My confidence was shot. There was no way. I would be forever violated. I'll be forever taken advantage of, walked on, and what have you. This is my beliefs now because I no longer have confidence. And then one of the worst things was my voice, not realizing that that was one of the most powerful things that was trying to be stopped in the whole incident of the trauma was my voice. Not being able to speak, not being able to express how I really feel, not even being able to express my pain or my joys, or to tell my story or to share with someone else. It's like I was always on the edge of a cliff, and I want to speak, but I can't speak. But now I won't shut up about it. I'm excited about it. But those are the things that my silence cost me. And they're very valuable. They are priceless, honestly, because we put ourselves in that mindset that I'm in danger. More abuse may happen. People will judge me. It'll be a conflict with individuals and feeling vulnerable. And so awareness is the first step to our healing. And this is why I bring this up, because a lot of times we are not aware. And I was not aware. I didn't have the resources. I didn't have the therapy. I didn't have the counseling. I didn't have the family members to make this awareness for me. This is a journey I had to take, and I had to learn, and I had to discover, and I had to go to crisis centers to do my advocacy training because I wanted a better understanding of what was happening to me. And I took the long road. It took over 20 years. And it's perpetual. I'm still in my evolving and my healing processes, because I'm learning even on this journey that things in life can still cause traumas and triggers, and sometimes I relate them, or I understand that it relates to the things that happened to me of my past. And so I want to continue to heal, and I don't want anything else. I don't want to be robbed of any more of my peace, of my joy, my trust, healthy relation, confidence, none of it. I want it all what's mine to be. And that's what we have to, I feel we have to portray or project to survivors and even ourselves in our daily walks. Because like I said, we all experience some sort of trauma, but don't allow that trauma to cost you, and of that silence to cost you your voices or what have you. Trauma does not stay in one place. Instead of focusing only on the event, we're going to show how trauma touches every part of our lives. It touches our mind, our body, our emotions, our relationships, our faith, our career, our identity, and our dreams. Trauma rarely stops confined to the original experience. It often reshapes what I just said. We think, we feel, we trust, how we worship, how we work, and connect with others. It Trauma, I'm sorry, I'm trying to read off the little phone and the little words are shrinking. Trauma rarely stays confined to the original experience, while the event itself may have happened in a single moment. It effects often ripple through every aspect of a person's life. Trauma has the ability to reshape how we think about ourselves, how we experience our emotions, how we trust ourselves, and how we navigate relationships. It can influence our work, alter our faith, affect our sense of safety, and even change the dreams we have for our future. Many survivors discover that they are not simply healing from what happened to them, they're also healing from the beliefs, the fears, the coping mechanisms, and protective behaviors that developed afterward. That is why healing must be viewed as a whole person journey. It is not just about addressing the memory of the trauma, it is about restoring the mind, the body, spirit, relationships, identity, and purpose that trauma attempted to disrupt. The encouraging truth is that while trauma can touch every area of your lives, healing also can. As we intentionally engage in the healing process, we begin to reclaim our voices, rebuild trust, rediscover our worth, strengthen our relationships, renew our faith, and embrace the future with hope. Healing is not about erasing the past. It is about refusing to allow the past to determine the rest of our lives. Ooh. And then there was the silence that becomes performance. The masks that we wear. How many of you guys have worn masks? I know, I wore them. I had, just as this picture displays, I had many, many masks that I would wear, and I didn't even realize I was wearing no mask. I was just trying to survive. And so when silence becomes performance, you have the strong one. When masks you were worn so well, people can't realize you're hurting, right? Because that was me. You didn't realize I was hurting. Even my best friend, when she found out, we grew up together. I think we've known each other since we were like 14 or 15. And I never told her about the assault. And we're still best friends today, over 40 some years later. And I told her when my case was solved in 2006. And when I told her, I had her to come by my house because CNN and everybody was coming to the house to do the interview. Because when my case was solved, I was one of the first cases solved under the cold case program, the Dallas Police Department, since the implementation of the funding from the Debbie Smith Act. And so as I'm on screen recording, I didn't think that maybe I should have told her first why I had you watching the children and what was really happening. And her face, she was just distraught. And we had to stop filming and I had to comfort her. And she was like, "You never told me that." And I thought about it and I was like, I never told anyone, but my husband and my family knew about the incident. So it was very devastating for her, needless to say, to see it in that way. But she told me, she said, "But you never acted a certain way, you know." And I got that because I was wearing those masks that I didn't know that I was wearing. And so one of the greatest misconceptions about trauma is that it's always visible. And the truth is, many survivors become experts at appearing okay while carrying unimaginable pain beneath the surface. And over time, silence can transform into performance. And we begin wearing emotional masks that help us survive, but often prevent us from being truly seen. And consider the common mask. And before we go through those common masks, I want to, if I can drop a little caveat here with those that work for survivors. And I've heard some say, "Well, she don't act like, you know, she's been this, or there's something off about her story. She's too happy, or she's too this." And, you know, we wear those masks. We wear those masks to hide that true pain. And it's basically a performance. So I hope we remember that as we work with survivors, not quick to say or judge or not believe them because of a certain way that they are acting. Get under that mask if we can to help them remove that mask. You have the strong one. The person everyone depends on, as they are always helping others, solving problems and carrying heavy burdens, yet rarely allow themselves to admit when they need support. You have the caregiver. The caregiver is the one that spends so much time caring for everyone else's emotional needs that they neglect their own. Their work often becomes tied to what they can do for others rather than who they are. And I was guilty of that, always trying to take care of everybody else and making sure they are okay and pushing myself further back. But to me, I was okay as long as you were okay, but I was still really suffering in the process. The people pleaser. No, the perfectionist. That's the one. Let me go to that one. That was my husband because I was that person. Believing that mistakes make them unworthy. I hated to make mistakes. Maybe that's why I make so many now. I'm like, okay, I'm learning my lesson, Lord. I'm learning my lesson. But that perfectionist, she just won't leave me alone. They strive for perfection in hopes that success, achievement, or control will somehow protect them from further pain or rejection. And I can tell you now it doesn't, because pain and rejection still comes. The people pleaser, that person, they say yes when they desperately want to say no. Their greatest fear is disappointing others, even when it comes to the expense of their own well-being. Let me tell you about that that people pleaser. Uh, that was me. And now I know how to say no, and I know how to say absolutely not, and it feels good. Because especially when I know I'm taking care of myself, but I would be depleted and exhausted and still would tell people yes, trying to please them. So I realized that my worth is not by pleasing others. I have to first take care of myself and make sure that I'm happy and pleased with myself. And then the funny one. Now I like being funny. I think my humor helped me out through this because I know, just laughter is healing, period. Uh, but so I think I'm gonna hold on to that one a little bit. But humor becomes a shield. It's no longer a shield for me. They make others laugh while quietly using laughter to hide the tears and pain they don't feel safe expressing. So I'm a waterhead now, and I'm a laughter person. When I say waterhead, that's the name they gave me when I started expressing myself, because I will boohoo cry and don't care who sees me, because I am comfortable now expressing my true feelings and being vulnerable with others. And the achiever. The achiever is the person who pours themselves into work. I know we have a lot of achievers here. Pour yourself into work, your education, your ministry, or accomplishments, believing that your achievements will fill the emptiness or silence the wounds they continue to carry. And that could be very painful, because you're like, I work so hard to get where I'm at, but where am I in that space as I do this work? Am I really healthy in the processes of doing the work? So just something for us to think about, especially when we're dealing with survivors. And the invisible one. Unfortunately, we still have the invisible ones, the ones they withdraw, they avoid attention, and minimize their own needs, because somewhere along the way they learned that staying unnoticed felt safer than being seen. So I'm going to invite you to pause, reflect on this following question. Which mask have you worn so well that people didn't realize you were hurting? Think about it. Just think about it. How many of us has worn masks and you wore it so well that people didn't realize you were hurting? Because I know I wore mine well. I wore mine. I was a professional mask person. So something to think about. These masks were never signs of weakness, though. I need you to remember that. They were never signs of weakness. They were often brilliant survival strategies that help you endure difficult circumstances. However, what once protected us can eventually become what prevents us from experiencing authentic healing. So just think about that. So healing begins when we find the courage to gently remove those masks we've worn for survival and allow ourselves to be seen, not the roles we play, but for who we truly are. So we appreciate your roles, but I'm telling you, you will be more appreciated if we can see who you really are. That way we can discover if we have to help you as an advocate, as law enforcement, how we can really help you, how we really can dive into the resources, how we can help you remove the mask. You can even train us how we can train us to remove our mask, because we all sometimes wear masks so well that nobody else even understands it. So here's our interactive reflection, the weight we carry. We will invite you to write privately, but I want you to complete these statements. The hardest thing I've never said is, I've learned to stay silent because one emotion I still carry is, one lie I have believed about myself is. So we're going to take a few minutes and we're going to do our little journals, interactive reflection, and it's going to be a quiet time. Let me see if I got some quiet music. Okay, I do see a speaker. And mind you, if you guys want, I think you have the PowerPoint, but if you want any of these songs, these are all my writings, and I just put them to music with AI. So all these songs are my writing. So I can share them with you if any of them touch you or anything of that nature you want to use. So let's see if I can get here. Is it playing? Okay.
Hey, there comes a time when God calls us out of the wilderness, when he whispers, it's time to see again. It's time to remove the mask. It's time to remember who you are in me. When you take off the veil of pain, you begin to see you were never the beast. You were always the beauty God had in mind. So many of us still struggle to see ourselves clearly because of how others have seen us. For years we've been called victims, we've been labeled broken, we've been whispered about, pity judged, defined by the worst thing that ever happened to us. Oh, when you take off the veil of pain, you begin to see you were never the beast. Oh, and after a while, we start believing it. We start seeing ourselves through the world's filter, and not through God's truth. But let me remind you, how they see you does not define you. God never called you damaged, he called you chosen. He never called you broken, he called you beloved. When you take off the veil of pain, you begin to see you were never the beast. Oh, he never called you victim, he called you victorious. So peel off every label the world has placed on you, because God already named you before you were born. When you take off the veil of pain, you begin to see you are no more the beast.
I didn't mean this because I didn't know how to stop the music. I'm sorry. But anyway, so when you do not have to, let me see, you don't have to share what you've written with us. This moment is not about performance. It's about permission to acknowledge what you've carried, to honor your journey, and to recognize that healing often begins the moment we stop carrying our burdens alone. The key takeaway from all of that was that we refuse to acknowledge what often continues to shape us. What we are willing to gently face can become the beginning of our healing. So the hidden cost of silence, we're going to dive into that a little bit more. Silence is often misunderstood as simply the absence of words. In reality, prolonged silence can quietly affect every dimension of a person's life. What begins as a survival strategy can eventually influence how we think, how we feel, how we relate to others, and even how we see ourselves in our relationship with God. As we explain the hidden cost of silence, remember that these responses are not signs of weakness. They are often the result of carrying pains that has never been acknowledged, processed, or released. And I want to pause and explain how important that is, even when you're dealing with survivors of sexual violence, when you respond to them or respond to how they react to you, or however you work with survivors. Remind them being silent was never a weakness for them. I have encountered so many survivors that reach out to me. As a matter of fact, I just did DPS. I just did a keynote with DPS, and I had some of the workers reach out that had endured and shared about the silence, and they felt weak because they were silent. But after listening to the keynote, because like I said, I believe in pouring into every aspect that work with survivors of sexual violence. You guys deserve it as well. They reached out, or some came to me and said, you know what, thank you for that. I needed to hear that I was not weak because I was not weak because I didn't speak up to what happened to me. But that's why I work in the field today, because I want to protect others, or I want to make sure they get the justice they deserve. So remind them when you talk to them that they are not weak because they did not say anything, or they didn't come forward immediately, or they didn't go to counseling or therapy, or whatever it was that caused them to remain silent. So as we explore the hidden cost of silence, remember those responses are not signs of weakness. They are often a result of carrying that what has never been acknowledged, processed, or released, as I said. So with the emotions remain unspoken, they often find other ways to express themselves. Common emotional effects may include anxiety and constant worry. That was me. Shame and self-blame, anger that feels difficult to explain, depression or persistent sadness, loneliness, even when surrounded by others, emotional numbness, fear or vulnerability, difficulty experiencing joy. And so, how has silence affected your emotional well-being? Think about that. How has it affected your own emotional being? And it's something I want to stop back and say, that anger that feels difficult to explain. I want to stop there as well too. When we think about, because when I think about me, I had so much anger as a victim of sexual violence, and I really couldn't explain it or interpret it. And I would always have people ask me that didn't understand, why are you so angry? I don't know. I didn't know. I honestly didn't know, but I was mad. I was mad at everybody. I was mad at the world. I was mad at the system. I was mad at my mama. I was mad at my daddy because he wasn't there. I was mad at my mom because I figured she was upstairs and she didn't hear her child, downstairs screaming. I was mad at the system. I was mad at police, how they treated me. I was mad. I was just mad. I don't know why I was angry. And that anger carried over into everything else that I did. And so when I go to school, why are you so angry? When I started working, my first job, she's so angry. She got an attitude. And I didn't know. I didn't understand how that trauma was affecting me, and that silence of not speaking about what really happened to me, what was really bothering me was doing. So I want us to remember that when we deal with survivors, because they're going to be angry, and rightfully so. And that's why we have to show empathy first. That's what I always say, empathy first, justice always, but empathy first, and that compassion for them. And that's why I'm the way I am now. I'm very compassionate and show empathy towards people. And no matter how, especially when I'm dealing with survivors, no matter how they come at me, it may upset me at first, or how they seem to, disrespect me. I always give pause, and I always give grace, because I put myself back in those spaces where they are at. I've walked in those shoes. I've lived that experience, and I know how things can affect me in a not so positive way. So I don't take it personal. And that was part of my healing journey as well, learning to not take everything personal from everybody else, because I don't know where you're at in your healing journey. You may have never been through sexual trauma, but something else could have traumatized you. You could have been raised in foster care. You could have lost your parents at an early age. You could have lost a child. Anything could have caused trauma. I've been through all of that except for foster care. And I know those things can be triggering, and it can cause a great deal of anger. So we have to show empathy towards one another and grace. And I'm not saying just, just sympathize for everything, because you still have those who can take advantage of you and your kindness. But I want us to be mindful when we are dealing with survivors, and when we're dealing with ourselves, if we have survived these things. Be kind to yourself, because I would even be angry with my own self when I would do things. So how has silence affected your emotional well-being? Think about it. So your physical, our bodies often carry what our voices have been unable to express. Common physical effects may include chronic exhaustion. Oh my God. Sleep disturbances or insomnia. I did not rest. Headaches and migraines, muscle tension, digestive concerns, increased stress responses, fatigue without a clear medical explanation, difficulty relaxing or feeling safe. Listen, if I tell you I have endured all of those physical aspects, and I couldn't put it together at first. I was this vibrant teenager, no issues, no anything. But as you grow older and I'm navigating life and I'm realizing that, this is not right with me. This is not right. Why am I this way? It took a toll on my health. I gained weight. People don't believe it. Some people, if you see some old photos, I was up to like 300 pounds in a 5'1" frame. I found comfort in food. With the food, overeating caused other issues. I was diabetic. I was this, I was that. I had chronic fatigue. All kind of stuff was happening to my stresses. You can't stress, Mrs. Masters. I'm like, that's easier said than done. But I was going through so much as a victim in that state, in that silence. Holding all of that was like a cancer eating me up inside out of my body. And the physical aspects of this is real when it comes to survivors. And so I know sometimes it's like you comment like, oh, here she come again. Something's always wrong with her. That's not the mindset we should have. If they've been through something, or if you've been through something so heinous as sexual violence, it will take a toll on you. And hiding that, not speaking about that, not addressing those issues, it will also affect the physical of a victim and yourself with your traumas or the things that you deal with in life. If you're dealing with victims, if you're doing this work, take that time to step back and look at your physical well-being. You have to be whole to navigate through this process as well. So I want to ask you a question. What is your body telling you or been trying to tell you that your heart has been struggling to say? Think about it, because our body is trying to tell you. It's like, hey girl, you better, okay, you better get it together. Because if not, nobody wants to have a heart attack early. Nobody wants to have TIA, strokes on the brain. All of this, the things that happened to me. And I'm like, I'm too young for this. What's happening? That was the price of my silence. That's what it was costing me in my physical. So I need you to think about that. What has your body been trying to tell you that your heart has struggled to say? So those unresolved issues, those unresolved relationships, those unresolved conversations, things that need to be said or talked about from this trauma or the trauma that you deal with others. I know some of us think I'm strong, I can handle it, and you're working in this field. Listen, this stuff is heavy. I listen to other survivor stories and I'm like, oh my God, I got to debrief. I got a DND for 2 days. That was too much, because I think about me and I'm thinking about them and I'm like, that was too much. So hopefully you guys have things in place, resources, group time where you can spend, get away, take your vacations or what have you, because we need you not only emotionally and relational, but we need you physically throughout all of this. So silence doesn't always in your relational, silence doesn't only impact the individual, it often shapes the way we connect with others. Common relational effects include difficulty trusting others, isolation and withdrawal, conflict avoidance, overgiving and people pleasing, fear of intimacy, difficulty receiving love, challenges setting healthy boundaries, feeling unseen and misunderstood. So it takes a toll on your relationships as well, and also your work relationships. So if you're remaining silent about these things, think about, how is this affecting me? So think, how has silence influenced your relationship with others, and perhaps even your relationship with yourself by remaining silent? I remember the beginning of my marriage, my husband was like, I really wish you would let me in. I'm like, let you in? What are you talking about? Because there was still some things that I didn't talk about when it came to the sexual violence and the childhood sexual abuse. I felt like I had to do it in pieces because I was trying to figure out in pieces. So I still, in the beginning, the first 5 years, a lot of things were unsaid. And when I began to release those things and talk about it, it led to such a healthy and strong relationship afterwards. And so this September will be 36 years. So that's a blessing within itself. So how has silence, think about it, influenced your relationships with others and perhaps even your relationship with yourself? And for spiritual, those who are spiritual, for many survivors, traumas and prolonged silence can also affect their spiritual lives. Some may experience feeling abandoned by God, because I did. Anger towards God, that was me. Doubt and unanswered questions, loss of hope, disconnection from faith communities, difficulty praying or trusting again, and wondering when God was during those painful moments. All of me, all my experiences. That's why I can put them there. And these experiences do not mean your faith is gone. They often reflect the honest struggle of trying to reconcile deep pain with your deep beliefs. And so ask yourself on that one, how was your healing journey influenced by your spiritual life? Those that are spiritual, whatever your spiritual journey is, how has it affected that? And so silence rarely confines itself to one area of your lives, is my takeaway for this. It is the potential to touch our emotions, our physical health, our relationships, and our spiritual well-being. The encouraging truth is that healing can reach each of those same places. As we begin to acknowledge that silence has what it has cost us, we also begin creating space for restoration. Healing is not about pretending the pain never existed. It is about allowing truth, hope, and courage to reach the places where silence once lived. When we remain hidden, what remained hidden often continues to hurt us. What is acknowledged with compassion has the opportunity to heal. Give me some water real quick. So this is an audience discussion. And Crystal, are we available for a breakout section?
Yes, we have time to take a break if you
Okay.
are ready to
Well,
take
I'm saying on the breakout section, are you set up to do that or no?
We can't do breakout rooms, but you do have, I'm looking at two cameras here. You do have the microphones enabled so people can unmute and have a group discussion.
Okay. That's fine. We'll do that. So the audience discussion here is what we're going to do is, thank you, Crystal. So one of the most powerful aspects of healing is realizing that we are not alone. While no one is required to share, I do want to offer you, those who feel comfortable or invited, to engage in a meaningful conversation with a partner or within a small group. So we'll just do the group. The purpose of this discussion is not to compare experiences, but to encourage reflection, connection, and mutual support. So we're going to do this about 7 to 8 minutes. Crystal, if you don't mind timing us, and actually, if you can kind of control the time limit as well. But the questions we want to ask is, when has silence protected you? And reflect on the time when remaining silent felt like safe options. How did that silence serve as a survival strategy during the season of life? So if someone wants to unmute their mic, and let's do that first discussion. That first question, when has silence protected you? And I can't see anything, so I'm trusting Crystal to do the magic. Did we have anyone? Reflect on a time when remaining silent felt like there was. How did that silence serve as a survival strategy during your season of your life? No one?
Yeah, and I'm watching the chat too. So if anybody wants to put anything in the chat,
Yeah.
I'm happy to
Yes.
read it for y'all too. So, Lavinia, to clarify, the question you asked was
Mhm.
when was silence protective
When
for
has
you?
silence protected you? So I
Okay.
wanted them to reflect on a time when remaining silent felt like it was the safest option. And how did that silence serve as a survival strategy during that season of your life? And like Crystal said, you can drop it in the chat and she'll read it for you.
Mhm.
Well, and I could give an example for me. I felt silence was best because what my perpetrator told me that night. He told me he knew my family, and if he saw the police come by and anything, he would come back and kill my entire family. So that was one of my greatest fears, and I thought I was not only protecting myself but protecting my family, and that was just a survival mode for me, which was the right thing to tell the police anyway, but still I didn't continue to talk about it because I didn't know, when you're a child, you're thinking they're going to come arrest them immediately, but that's not how it works. So going through those years, I'm thinking, does he really know my family? Is he stalking me? Does he see me? Is he watching me and waiting for the next opportunity because of what I said? So I went into total silence after that because I felt it was protecting me and my family.
Yeah, and I think I can definitely empathize and relate to that too. I went through a situation when I was leaving the domestic violence when I was married,
Yes,
and there was a legal situation related to taxes. I had to wait an entire year until I was in a safe situation to get all
yes,
those paperwork and things because I had to protect my identity, social security
yes,
number, and stuff like that. So it took a long time, and for me being a very vocal person, but I did
yes,
have to wait an entire year under professional guidance and legal guidance
yes,
until I
yes,
was in a safe living situation to gather all those documents and file a tax return.
yes,
So it took
yes.
a long time, and it all happened during COVID too.
Oh,
So
wow.
there was a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah,
patience that had to
yes,
happen there.
yes.
Yeah.
It's survivable. But we'll go to the
Yeah.
next question because or did somebody put anything in chat?
Let's see, we got quite a bit going in the chat now.
Okay.
Sometimes folks got to catch up and type in. Someone
Okay.
shared that silence just protected from further abuse, and that's very
Yes.
relatable. I've heard that for 20
Yes, it
years.
is.
Just sometimes I just had
Yes.
to stop arguing or stop whatever just to make the abuse stop. Silence
Yes. Yes.
protected me when family didn't acknowledge it, right? And not having
Yes.
to have conflict
Yes.
with family. When
Yes.
perpetrators still had power to affect my life. That's another very
Yes.
common
Yes.
experience.
Yes, it is.
Protected me with arguments with my mother and past partners so they would help things from getting worse, from things progressing from verbal abuse into physical abuse.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so the next one is when has silence prevented your healing? Consider whether there are moments when continuing to remain silent delayed your healing, affected your relationships, or kept you from receiving the support you needed. So, when has that silence prevented your healing? I would say I'll start to say when I was in school, when I went back to, when I got in high school, because I was in junior high when it happened. When I got to high school, I started noticing my attitude was really different, and I was like boxing boys that would say stuff to me and getting in trouble and things of that nature. And I wanted to tell the counselor what happened to me because I was having those flashbacks and I was getting angry, and I was in the counselor office and she got upset with me because I didn't she was like, what's happening with you? What's wrong with you? And for one, I didn't like her attitude, how she came at me, because she showed no empathy or whatever. But I was labeled as a troubled child because I didn't have the courage, or I didn't have the knowledge, or whatever it was, to say, this is what's really hurting me. This is what happened to me. This is what I'm struggling with. So I wish I would have spoken up then, to make awareness with that counselor what was really happening. And so I felt that was part of my suffering that prevented my healing in high school and made me more hostile in the process. Those 4 years, it was very difficult. So anybody else put anything in chat on that one?
Yes, we got lots of things coming in the
Okay.
chat. Silence caused isolation and gave the illusion to my support system that I was okay or that they
Yes.
were the problem. It caused me to develop a false narrative to myself. I was doing better
Yes.
than I actually was because I chose not to talk about it or deal with the fallout from the trauma. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So,
And get that one.
um, let's see. Fear to set boundaries kept me silent. This prevented me from focusing on self-care and healing.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and then another person has shared, it kept me from having a genuine conversation because of the shutting down and being silent. It also
Yes.
kept me from asking others for help. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Someone else shared, I stayed quiet to protect image in my children, but it also prevented my ability to leave my marriage because I was working overtime to
Mhm.
make my marriage look perfect for over a decade. And
Mhm.
while everyone believed me when I came out about the abuse and sexual abuse, it was still completely shocking to everyone because they thought it was all good. Meanwhile, I was crumbling and had lost myself completely.
Yeah. Saying it.
Silence led to resentment in other
Mhm.
areas of my life. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Totally agree. Totally understand. I'm relatable, as you said. Yes. Thank you
Yes,
guys
all
for
of these are
sharing that.
definitely
Yes.
relatable.
Yes. All
Yeah.
of them. So, and the third question is, what did you discover about yourself during today's reflection exercise? Share your any insights, emotions, or realizations that surfaced as you completed the Weight We Carry exercise. What surprised you, or what challenged you? What encouraged you with that? Share any insights, emotions. It can be, realizations that surface, anything that surprised you. Just, I'm always amazed at how what Crystal said, it's all relatable.
Hmm.
It's like right there, it's black and white. And they have to see it. You like the world has to see it. They have to see our voices. And so it's so relatable, everything that we've been through. So many, especially when they were saying how it changes, you try to change the narrative of who you are. I understand it all completely. So anybody put anything in chat?
Yeah. Someone shared, these are profound testimonies. Thank you for the courage to share and
Yes,
be
yes,
transparent. And then someone also shared about how silence prevented healing because it gave the perpetrators power and the mindset they could continue the abuse
yes.
and continue their being a predator, sexual predator. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
And I thank you. I do thank you all for sharing and being vulnerable and participating and engaging in these conversations. I love being thought provoking. I love when people may say something to me and I'm like, wait a minute. And I evaluate myself. I'm like, oh, that made me feel good. Or, oh, that made me think about this. Or I think I'm still struggling in that area or something I need to address. So thank you for being vulnerable and paying attention and listening and sharing with us, finding this as a safe space. And you were never obligated to disclose anything, but sometimes healing begins by simply listening to someone else's courage. And sometimes healing begins by honoring your own silence until you're ready. And I absolutely love listening to others' courage because it is so empowering. I know a lot of people say, well, Lavinia, do you get paid to do all this? And I'm like, no, not all the time. I do a lot of stuff pro bono because I love to be empowered. When survivors come to me, or when people that work in the field come and say they were empowered or they were encouraged, or Lavinia, I'm going to do this differently. I'm going to work with survivors on this. I'm going to change our program this way because of that. That that is more than any compensation can give me. A short testimony that I give with Chief Drain of the Plano Police Department, and he came to my balloon release this year, and he had me in boohoo tears because he was one of my speakers but I wasn't prepared what he was going to say. And he was telling the story of when he came from Lubbock to Plano, and he was asked to be on the governor's task force, and he was new to all of that. And he said, and I met this lady, and the lady he was talking about was me, because I was I thought myself to be combative with law enforcement, because I'm like, I really need you to get what a survivor goes through. And so to me, Chief Drain, his thought processing was a little bit different coming out of Lubbock. And I'm like, okay, sir, we're going to have difficulties. But he shared the testimony that while on the task force and encountering me, and how I saw things, and how I had wanted things to implement differently with law enforcement and the Lavinia Masters Act, how he redid the entire mindset and the work protocol of handling survivors at the Plano Police Department. And I was humbled, and I cried behind that. And I was like, God bless you, Chief Drain. And he was like, no, thank you for your work. He said, for you using your voice and being vulnerable and being transparent. And that was like that. I'm like, that is compensation for me. That is healing for me, because I know I'm on the right path of pouring back and helping others in this work. And that's what matters. That's what all of this is all about. So healing often grows in a safe community. While trauma can isolate us, healthy connections remind us of that we are seen, we are heard, and we do not have to walk the journey of healing alone. So healing begins with one truth. Breaking the silence is not a single moment. It is a courageous process. It's not about sharing every detail of your story with everyone you meet. Rather, it is about refusing to allow pain, shame, fear, or trauma to remain hidden in places where they continue to control your life. Healing often begins with one truth, one honest conversation, one safe relationship, and one courageous decision to believe that your story deserves compassion rather than condemnation. And imagine your healing journey of climbing a staircase, my little staircase I created, or AI did for me, pretending the pain doesn't exist. Climbing the staircase, each step requires courage, but every single step moves you closer to freedom. Step one, you acknowledge it. Healing begins when you stop pretending the pain doesn't exist. Acknowledging what happened is not giving trauma power. It's taking away its ability to hide in silence. Acknowledge it. That was the hardest thing for me, acknowledging my pain. I did not want to be that vulnerable. I did not want to expose myself to that. I didn't even know how to acknowledge it myself. But once I realized that I was not weak for doing so. I was stronger than I could ever imagine by acknowledging that. It did not take away the ability to hide in silence. So ask yourself, what have I been avoiding? What truth have I been unwilling to face? What part of my story needs to be acknowledged with compassion rather than judgment? So think about that when you acknowledge your story, not just your story of sexual violence, but your story of how maybe working with a victim of sexual violence has affected you. And it causes, because I've heard law enforcement, and I've had law enforcement call me, and they're like, Lavinia, I just can't let this go. Why is this bothering me? You have to acknowledge that has affected you as law enforcement in this work. So what have you been avoiding in this work? What truth have you been unwilling to face? And what part of your story needs to be acknowledged with compassion rather than judgment? Step two, as you go up these steps, or go down, they're going down. Name it. There is power in giving language to your experience, whether it's fear, betrayal, grief, shame, abuse, abandonment, or disappointment. Naming what we have experienced help us better understand that what we are healing from. We cannot heal from what we refuse to identify. Now I got a story for that one, but that'll take too long. We only got 3 hours, but we have to come back another time when I had to go of that step of naming it. But I want us to think about that, to name those things that we don't want to identify. We cannot heal if we refuse to identify. And I refused to identify what was really causing me my trauma, and that was my sexual violence. And the step 3 is to share it in safety. I'm honored that you guys feel safe with me today. I take pride in that, and offering people a safe space in whatever I do, especially when we're doing something so vulnerable or dealing with something so vulnerable as survivors or working with survivors, you have to feel safe. And I always say, if I don't feel safe with you, I'm not going to engage with you. And that's just the way I am. Even at this stage in my life, my safety still matters when it comes to protecting my peace and all of that because of what I've been through, what I've endured in this life. And so it's still important to me to have that safety space. So not everyone deserves to access to your story. Remember that. Not everyone deserves that. And healing does not require public disclosure. So it's like we give you the options. You can share, you don't share, however you want to do. And so it requires safe disclosure. We want you to be safe. Choose trusted people who will listen without judgment, honor your boundaries, and support your healing journey. Safe people help create safe spaces. So this is sometimes the difficult part because we've grown accustomed to certain people, or we've learned to just accept them for who they are, but they don't respect us in the aspect of giving us the safety that we deserve, or they don't the work that you do. They don't honor that. They don't understand why you're so protective of the you work with, survivors that you may encounter, their stories or what have you. They don't understand that I don't have the freedom. I have many stories that many survivors share with me. And it's not my freedom to share their stories or experiences. I want them to share. And the only time I share tidbits is when they say, Lavinia, it's okay to share. Like I share with the young lady at DPS, I always ask them because some stories I'm like, can I share a piece of that? I don't give their name or what have you, but I just want to share that experience because I want to encourage and empower others in the field. So it's your story, your time, your individual that you're working with, their time, respect their privacy, but because they need to know that they're safe with you always. Step 4, receive support. Healing has never meant to be a journey that we walk alone. Oh, I wish I knew that in the beginning. Support may come through counseling or therapy, advocacy services, faith communities, trusted family members, support groups, mentors, or coaches. Receiving support is not a sign of weakness. It is an act of courage and self-respect. Step 5, continue healing. Healing is not a destination. I had to learn that. I have not arrived. I'm still on my journey. And it's that we eventually arrive at. It is a lifelong journey of growth, discovery, resilience, and restoration. I love this journey of healing. Let me tell you, one of my favorite, I thought was my voice, but when I learned about resilience, that took me to another level. I absolutely love that I was resilient. I had no idea in the beginning what that was, what that even meant, and how it looked, what it looked like. But now it's like when I look in the mirror, I'm like, girl, you are resilient. You are still here. You are still standing. You are working it, girl. You are telling others about themselves. You're sharing your story. You're encouraging others. You're building bridges with law enforcement, with you are doing, I love it. I love it. I absolutely love it. So it's no harm in to continue to heal and give yourself. It's not a destination. Some days you will feel like a tremendous progress, and then other days you may feel like there are setbacks. I have those moments. Both are part of this process. So give yourself permission to continue growing one step at a time. So I'm going to let you know that breaking silence doesn't mean telling everyone your story. It means refusing to carry it alone. So you don't tell everybody, just don't carry it alone. And I'm going to remind you that every person's healing journey is unique. Some will begin by speaking aloud for the first time. Others may simply acknowledge a truth within themselves that they have never allowed themselves to face. Both are courageous steps. And the takeaway from all of that is healing rarely happens all at once. It's not going to happen all at once. It happens one honest step at a time. Every time you choose truth over fear, courage over shame, and connection over isolation, you are breaking the silence and moving closer to the life you were always created to live. Reminding you that breaking silence doesn't mean telling everyone your story. It means refusing to carry it alone. Let me give you my reflection. There came a moment when I realized my silence was no longer protecting me. It was protecting my pain. The day I found my voice wasn't the day my wounds disappeared. It was the day I decided my wounds would no longer decide my future. And I want you just to sit for a moment. Okay. So finding your voice begins with honest reflection. As we conclude this section on the cost of silence, take a few moments to reflect on what you've heard, what you felt, and what you've discovered about yourself and survivors. There are no right or wrong answers. This is your opportunity to acknowledge where you are today and to identify that the next step in your healing journey and or helping a survivor along theirs. Finish these statements. Today I realized one truth I am ready to embrace is one step I will take before the end of this week is. So we're going to give you a couple of minutes, just about 3 minutes. I don't know if I have music on here. I don't see it. No, I don't think I do. But just a few seconds while I'll just talk you through it while you're writing. Healing doesn't require that you have every answer today. Sometimes the most courageous step is simply becoming aware of what you've been carrying and deciding that you no longer want to carry it alone. Every honest reflection is a step toward freedom. As you prepare for your next part of your journey together, our journey together, remember this. Your silence may have helped you survive, but your voice has the power to help you heal. One honest reflection, one courageous truth, and one intentional step can begin changing the direction of your life. So, your voice is not the evidence of your healing. Sometimes your willingness to whisper the truth is where your healing begins. So right here, we're going to go into a transition. As we prepare to pause, we're going to take our first wellness break. I invite you to take one final moment to simply breathe and reflect on what you've experienced during this module. Imagine a peaceful sunrise over the calm water. I tried to give you all of that. The darkness has not erased what happened during the night, but the light reminds us of a new day is always possible. Healing often begins in some way, not in some way, begins in the same way, not with the answers, but with the quiet hope that tomorrow can be different from yesterday. Take these words with you as you go away for a few moments, and I want everybody to step away for about 5 minutes. Your voice is not the evidence of your healing. Sometimes your willingness to whisper the truth is where your healing begins. Healing is not measured by how loudly you speak or how quickly you recover. Sometimes healing begins with a single honest thought, a private journal entry, a quiet prayer, or the courage to admit, I'm ready to begin. So this is your opportunity to take care of yourself. Stand, stretch your body, take several slow, intentional breaths, drink some water, step outside if you're able, give yourself permission to simply be present. Most importantly, resist the urge to immediately check your emails or social media. Instead, allow your mind and heart a few moments to rest and process. And when we return in 5 minutes, we will continue our journey by exploring how healing grows through healthy boundaries and courageous self-discovery. We'll be back in 5 minutes. Thank you.
All right, y'all, just a reminder, while we're on break, I will have some music playing so that we don't lose our feed and you don't lose your you don't become inactive while we're all stepping away and taking care of ourselves. So also there's some great stuff in the chat box. So I encourage y'all to take a second to check that out. Give Lavinia a second to check that out. This has been a great training so far. So please enjoy your break and we will be back soon.
All right. Go. Back up here. This show full webinar window.
All right, yeah. I don't know if y'all were hearing the audio on our break, but Tasa does have a Spotify channel, and you are welcome to get playlists from all of our past conferences and stuff. Quite a bit of fun music on there if you would like to follow Tasa on Spotify. So we're gonna hop back in. Before, let's see, we have a few people with their hands raised. If y'all guys could just let me know in the chat box, are you wanting to share with us or was that an accident? Sometimes that button gets pushed, or you might be on a device and you move just a little and it thinks you're raising your hand to talk to us. So, okay, we hope y'all had a great break. So, we will get started on the last half of our webinar. Does anybody need me to repost the link for the slides or the actual document itself? So, let's see. All right, I can provide both of those here in just a second. Let's see, we had somebody share, I love this. Thanks for taking the time to provide this knowledge to us in my healing journey. I've learned that it's not about becoming this perfect, peaceful version of myself. Couldn't agree more. It's about understanding my body, my emotions, my limits, and realizing I'm not broken. I've been carrying too much for too long. Absolutely. So,
Yeah.
Lavinia, I can't think of a better way to turn this over and get you started on part two of our session today.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you guys for coming back. Thank you for sharing that. I was trying to skim through some of the chats without messing up my screen, so I didn't it messed up, but I saw some of it. Thank you guys so much. It is such an honor and privilege that you feel enlightened today, and you see the how necessary this is that we go through these type of webinars, and I'm just so excited for your attention. And I also, like I said earlier, somebody said something about the music. They're all my writings, and I did them to music on AI. You're welcome to share. I can send them to you later. If you just send me an email, I can get them over to you. I don't mind you using them at all. So we're going to dive right in to our trauma is more than a memory. So this is, and thank you for being patient with me in this phone. I'm like, oh my God. And every time you hit something, it wants to reload. I love updates. Notice the sarcasm there. So trauma changes more than memories, understanding the lasting impact of trauma and the hope of healing. Many people believe trauma is simply a painful memory. While memories are certainly part of the experience, trauma often changes the way we think, feel, respond, trust, connect, and even view ourselves. This module helps us to understand that many of the struggles we experience today are not signs of weakness or failure. They are understandable adaptations of overwhelming experiences. Most importantly, participants should discover that while trauma can change or reshape our brain, our body, and beliefs, healing has the power to reshape them as well. That's the beauty part of it. And if you notice, I always say it's not a weakness. I emphasize that because I always felt that it was a weakness. All of these were weaknesses. I was a weak individual because I went through all of these things after such a traumatic event. And I had to learn I was not weak at all. I was actually strong to endure it and try to fight back and come forward and realize that there was a survivor waiting to thrive and come from me. So we are not weak at all. We were just surviving and trying to make life work the best of our abilities. And so I use that a lot when I say we are not weak, because I need you to understand you are not weak. You are not a failure. Not even if you haven't endured sexual trauma, dealing with survivors, sometimes it can be very difficult. If you're listening to this today and what I'm laying out for you of the areas and the issues and the processes that we go through of victimization, it can be tedious on those that work with us and don't fully understand us. So you're not weak because you can't tap into a survivor and you have to pass her on or pass him on to someone else and they tap into it. You had that resilience, you had that strength and that courage to at least stand and show support in the beginning. So we're never weak in this work process. So by the end of this module, we will be able to describe how trauma affects our mind, body, emotions, relationships, and sense of identity, recognize our common trauma responses without shame or self-condemnation, and identify practical steps toward healing that support resilience and long-term wellness. And it's intentionally designed to bridge participants from understanding trauma into learning how to establish healthy boundaries rather than leaving them focused on what trauma changed. It gently shifts their conversation toward what healing can restore, preparing you for practical work that follows in the next section. So, trauma is more than a memory. Trauma is not simply something that happened in your past. It often continues to influence how you experience your present. That is so true. Have you ever found yourself reacting to something and wonder, why did I respond that way? Quick story, backstory of me. Many of you know the story, have heard my entire story of how the police treated me that night after my assault. They were when I got older, I realized they were very disrespectful and condescending in how they talked to me, asking me the questions they asked. And so I had grown this disdain with law enforcement, and I didn't even realize it. When I started driving, I think I started driving at 21, 22 years old. My husband taught me how to drive. And when I would get pulled over by the police, to me, it was always idiotic stuff. Your headlight is out. You tap the line, I would go ballistic. And I didn't realize why I was so ballistic with police officers, why I was so hostile with law enforcement until as I was starting my journey processes. And this was years later. I think my son was, I think he was like 16 years old. And he's 34 now. I think he was like 16 years old when I realized that was an area that I had to heal after I had another explosive event with law enforcement. My son was in the car, and it shook him up. And he came home and told his daddy on me. He said, "Mama, something's wrong with Mama. Something's wrong with Mama." And I never saw it before until my child brought it to my realization, because I've had these events and I would tell my husband about it, and I think he didn't really know how to handle it. He would, calm down, don't go to jail, don't get shot out there. Cause I would, I'm not exaggerating. I would fly the coop, as they say, when law enforcement would pull me over. And I realized it was the trigger. It was law enforcement stopping me was a trigger. And cause in my mind, I was really saying, you're not here to protect me. You're not going to believe anything I say. You're not, this was my mindset. And I didn't realize how that was triggering me. And it was causing me to have that break in communication with law enforcement. And that was all because of how I saw what it stole from me, the trauma, and when I saw myself and not knowing that was a trigger. And so I thought, I don't know what I thought of myself, but it was very disappointing once I realized, oh my God, I could have lost my life. They could have treated me worse. I could have a police record, went to jail, from not obeying the law, because of something simple. But that's how trauma affects us, and we don't see it in that instance. But that's exactly what happened to me. That was one of my immediate triggers was law enforcement. So when I got off track because I do like to talk. Okay, so I found myself responding in a way, and I did have to ask myself, why did I respond? And that took years to get to that question and explain that trauma affects the entire person, the mind, body, and working together. For example, if it can disrupt your sleep, which I know many of you have endured because I have endured it, leading to nightmares, insomnia, or feeling exhausted even after resting. It can affect your concentration, making it hard to focus, remember things, or complete tasks. Trauma can heighten stress responses, causing someone to feel constantly on edge, easily startled, or overwhelmed by situations they felt once manageable. Emotional regulations may become more difficult, leading to intense feelings such as anger, sadness, fear, or numbness that seem hard to control. Physical well-being can also be impacted, showing up as headaches, stomach issues, muscle tensions, or chronic fatigue. These responses are not character flaws. They are our body's natural attempt to protect and adapt after overwhelming experiences. And if I can't tell you anything else or enforce anything else, listen to your body, especially if you have not only endured trauma, but if you're working with individuals that have been through trauma. Listen to your body. It's trying to tell you something. Maybe you need a break. Maybe you need to pause, step back, go to therapy, take a vacation, find you a Mai Tai or something, but you have to take care of yourself during these processes, because if not, trauma will show up in ways that you do not expect it. And we find ourselves going down these rabbit holes. I'm not enough. I deserve what happened to me. I can't trust anyone. I'll never be whole. My voice doesn't matter. And so much more we go through, all because I don't want to, hold on. I touched the button, y'all. Give me a second. Can you see me? Crystal, can you still see me? Because I can't see any. I see my
Yes.
Okay, good. As long as you can see me, because I see the PowerPoint, but I don't see my thing anymore. So I won't touch any more buttons. We'll stay with the phone. But love always hurts, or what have you, in acceptance. So we have to be mindful of how trauma changes the way we see ourselves. And now waiting on the phone. I'm sorry, the phone has taken over my presentation. Okay, don't do that. Don't do that. You gotta love ads, right? Oh my goodness. Really, phone? Okay, it tried to make me download something. Okay, so it whispers those messages that are not true. I am not enough. I deserve what happened. I can't trust anyone. Love always hurts. I have to earn acceptance. My voice doesn't matter. I will never be whole. And so, which of these messages have you struggled to believe? One of my hardest ones was love always hurts. I didn't want to love anybody because I felt it was painful to love someone, because you have to trust them and you have to go through so much. And I just didn't. I said, love hurts. It disappoints. People are not who they say they are. They are not authentic. They will use and abuse you. They will smile at you and really are out to undermine or hurt you. And it's some of that is still true, but I had to take that away from my mode of thinking, because that was my victim mind that I kept living in. And just have to learn how to deal with life and deal with people. And that's why we set healthy boundaries for those who don't want to change. Trauma changes the brain and body. Our thoughts, our emotion, our sleep, our stress, relationships, concentration, physical health, and decision making. Trauma affects the entire person. It can influence your sleep, like we said, your concentration, your stress responses, emotional regulation, and physical well-being. These responses are not character flaws. They are the body's attempt to protect itself over overwhelming experiences. And I did that because I need us to understand that they are not flaws, but we have to stop and pause and pay attention to them, because sometimes those thoughts become unhealthy. Our emotions be everywhere and be distraught. I'm like, I don't know why I'm crying. I don't know why I'm going through this. I don't know why I'm so angry. And sometimes we don't even realize those emotions, but we're going through them. And it can take somebody else to say, Lavinia, are you okay? What's happening with you? Why are you so angry? Why are you this? The sleep. Oh my God. I could not sleep. I had nightmares for the first 10 years of my marriage before I started my healing process. And my perpetrator was coming through the window every night. And I mean, I did not miss a night of my nightmares. And my husband had to get up in the middle of the night and drive me around Dallas. And that's when I learned that Loop 12 goes all the way around Dallas. And he's from Arkansas, and he taught me that. But he would drive me all night until I could get some rest. And so not only was I causing stress for me, but for him. I was losing sleep and he lost sleep because he was trying to be a support for me. It causes the stress, relationships, all of that, physical health. So pay attention to the changes in your body when you are not only experience trauma, but when you're working directly with trauma. We have to take care of ourselves. Sometimes our nervous system has has ways to protect us when we feel threatened, and there's no right or wrong way to respond. Sometimes we fight. In other words, the fight response shows up when the body prepares to defend itself against a perceived threat. This can look like anger, irritability, arguing, or become controlling. While it may feel overwhelming or even harmful at times, this response originally developed to help protect us and create a sense of safety when we feel overwhelmed or we feel threatened. So we fight. And I know I have shown that to some people. Maybe some people on this call have seen that in me. I sometimes I know I lash out on social media. I try not to get too personal, but it's like I'm like in that mode at that moment. I feel threatened about certain things. And so that's a natural response. Or flight. The flight response is about escaping that danger. People experiencing this response may feel restless, anxious, or constantly on edge. They may avoid certain situations, stay busy, distract themselves, or feel an urge to leave environments that feel uncomfortable. This response is the way of the body's way of trying to move away from harm as quickly as possible. Then some freeze. The freeze response happens when the body feels overwhelmed and unable to fight or flee. It can look like feelings are stuck, numb, disconnected, unable to make decisions. Some people may feel shut down or like they are watching things happen from a distance. This response is a protective mechanism that helps the body conserve energy and endure overwhelming situations. And that's basically what I did. I froze in my assault. And I used to beat myself up because I'm like, they used to call me before the rapper Lil Scrappy. I was Lil Scrappy because I was, I had a big brother and boy cousin. So they taught me how to fight and box. And sometimes I was like, I'm ready. I was always ready. But that night I couldn't do either. I couldn't fight or flight that night because it was a surprise to wake up with a knife compressed to your throat. So it was rather difficult. And a lot went through my mind. So I just had to surrender to the trauma that happened to me. And that's perfectly okay because I was threatened and I felt that I was protecting myself by listening to the demands of this deranged monster. And then fawn. Fawn is the response involves trying to stay safe by pleasing others or avoiding conflict. This can look like putting other needs ahead of your own, difficulty saying no, or seeking approval to feel secure. While it may lead to challenges with boundaries, this response developed as a way to maintain connection and reduce the risk of harm in relationships. So I want you to ask yourself how you recognize yourself with compassion rather than judgment. When you look at any of these, make sure you respond. Which response do you recognize most often in yourself? But I need you to recognize them with compassion rather than judgment. And even not within yourself, but when you speak to some survivors, one in particular, the fawn. I know a lot of survivors go through fawn, and what happens is it may be someone they know, and I've had many say, well, I told him to put a condom on. And some people be like, wait a minute, but it was their way they felt of being still in control of that situation and trying to protect themselves and making the perpetrator, in a sense, because they may have known them, most likely if they're going to have the conversation to feel like they're in control of everything. So I want us to be mindful and to think about those things, that the fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. How do we see ourselves and how do we handle certain situations when it comes to those aspects of that? Those are survival modes. Perfectly normal and perfectly healthy, if you ask me, because you are protecting yourself in that moment and in that instance. And it's your body's normal mechanism to protect you. When survival becomes a lifestyle, many coping mechanisms that once protected us eventually becomes barriers to healing. These strategies often develop as ways to survive overwhelming or unsafe situations, helping us manage stress, avoid pain, or maintain a sense of control. However, over time, they can limit our ability to connect with others, process emotions, and grow in healthier ways. Examples are overworking, staying constantly busy to avoid difficult thoughts or feelings, often leading to burnout and neglect of personal needs. And I know many of you guys probably overwork, especially in the work that we do, working with survivors. So you find yourself always busy, always involved in something, and sometimes we need to just stop and face what we really need to face within ourselves, or what issues or what challenges we are having in that moment. Perfectionism, setting unrealistic high standards to feel safe or worthy, which can create chronic stress and fear of failure. Emotional numbness, a shutting down feelings to avoid pain, but also blocking joy, connection, and emotional awareness. Isolation, withdrawing from others to protect oneself from hurt, which can increase loneliness and reduce support. Let me tell you, I've done that, and I don't like that feeling that isolation brings, because in the end, you feel alone. And a lot of times it's because I isolated myself, and I'm figuring I'm protecting myself. But in the long run, that lifestyle can cause more harm to me, because now I feel like I'm really all alone because I decided I didn't want to be or interact with others. Hyper independence, relying only on oneself due to past experience of disappointment or betrayal, making it hard to trust or accept help. And if I'm honest and transparent, that is still one of my challenges that I deal with today is my hyper independence. Um, Sometimes I'm like, I got it, I can do it. Or if you betray me, or if you make me feel some type of way, I still struggle of allowing that lifestyle to be released from me. I will go back to it in a heartbeat. And just being honest with you. So, like I said, that's why this journey is perpetual that we're on when it comes to healing. Avoidance, steering clear of situations, memories, or emotions that feel overwhelming, which can prevent healing and growth. And I was there. I would avoid all of those feelings or situations, anything that would bring me back in that space. But I've learned that avoidance was not healthy for me. So now I do come like a tractor trailer head on, or train or what have you with these emotions and my feelings, and I will express myself. Sometimes it drives my husband crazy, because I will not shut up. I will let you know exactly how I feel. People pleasing, prioritizing others' needs over one's own to maintain safety or support, often at the cost of personal boundaries and self-worth. Uh, those become our lifestyle. Survival becomes a lifestyle. And our coping mechanisms that once protected us, eventually they're barring us from our healing. And so we have to be mindful of that. Your survival strategies deserve compassion, but they also deserve evaluation. Ask yourself honestly, are they still protecting me, or are they preventing me from living fully? I want to live my best life. I want to live fully. However long I got left on this earth, I want to live every day to the fullest, every moment, every second, because I've lived in so much pain and so much trauma for so long. And I've learned, which I know you have too, that trauma continues to happen. You lose your mother, you lose your father, you lose loved ones. Like I said, you have miscarriages. So much happens in life. Trauma continues. What do? Do I stop and stop living? No, I survive, but I don't allow it to become a lifestyle. I choose how I'm going to live, and I'm going to live my life to the fullest. I will acknowledge my trauma. I will acknowledge my pain. I've learned to express myself through it all, but I refuse to allow it to stop me from living my life to the fullest. And I want you to reflect on that just for a second. And remember, your survival strategies, they deserve your compassion, but they also deserve evaluation. So do yourself evaluation and ask yourself always, are you still protecting me? Or are you and what's preventing you from living fully? I want you to live your best life forward. So our next interactive exercise is survival versus healing. I want you to complete 2 columns. What helped me survive and what will help me heal? I'm going to allow you 5 minutes to write privately, and I will invite you to share insights if you feel comfortable. And I should have music on this one. Let's see. No, I did. What did I do wrong? Oh. So then, okay. Yeah, I'm gonna quit touching buttons. We just, I'm sorry, guys, because I am not in my element right now. But we'll give you a few minutes. What helped me survive? What helped me heal? Uh, if anybody just want to pop it in chat real quick, and if Crystal, or is it Jessica taking over? I see a Jessica name here.
I'm here, Lavinia.
Oh, you're there. Okay, because like I said, I don't see anybody. I just saw Jessica's name. So if anybody's in chat and just want to drop, what helped me survive? What helped me heal? If anybody want to just share? And Crystal can read it to me.
We don't have anything coming in yet, but people might need some time to reflect first, and then they'll start.
Okay. 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 And I just knew. I don't see the music button, so. What helped you heal? And I can say what helped me survive was my family, as far as the love I had for my immediate family. I felt like I was the I was the big sister to my little sister and my little brother, and they depended on me a lot. As a matter of fact, they were there that night, and the perpetrator said he would kill them if I screamed. And so I always felt like I had to protect them. So even after the assault growing up, I needed to be there for them. They depended on me, their big sister, their homework, going to the school when my mama couldn't be there to help them out. And then when I got married, my husband was very supportive, and he helped me survive a lot of my physical, mental, emotional, being supportive of me, seeing my value and my worth, even when I still didn't see it in the beginning. He would always encourage me. And then when we had our son, oh my God, that just opened up a whole new life worth living and surviving. And then what helped me heal was the very same things, because those people, that life, I wanted them to have the best of me as well as I wanted the best of me. So that is part of what helped me survive in my healing. And of course, my faith, because I was deeply rooted in faith. So did we get any chats? Because I can't see it. I'm sorry.
Here, they're starting to come in now. So,
Okay.
speaking up helped me survive, and research and support helped me heal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Unfortunately, these survival coping mechanisms that only make sense to us can make us seem to others as if we are okay and doing well, when in reality, we need all the help we can get to heal
Yes. Yes,
properly.
ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Yes. Agree. Agree.
yeah. Learning
Agree.
about the effects of trauma and how it can impact behavior helped me heal from CSA and the shame I had towards myself for some of
Mhm.
my behaviors during those years.
Mhm.
And then another person shared, for me, it took hitting rock bottom, finally getting tired of what I had become. I hated who I was.
Yeah. That's the hard. That's hard. That's hard. Because that's how you feel like I can't be this person. I can't be this person. I felt you on that one, because that's how I felt, like I hit rock bottom. Enough was enough. Yeah. Marriage was at stake and everything. I agree. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's
I'll
about
go
five. Okay.
myself for my journaling. For me, it was learning what was and was not in my control, like what I could and
Yes.
couldn't control.
Yes.
And that
Yes.
trauma was not something I could predict or like plan my way out of.
Yes.
And
Yes. Yes.
then, yeah, what helped me heal was learning where to put my anger. Like there's a such thing as righteous anger that leads to
Yes.
change instead of
Yes.
unproductive or self-destructive anger. So,
Yes.
yes.
I love that. Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Thank you
All
guys for
right.
sharing again.
We have
Yes.
one more that just came
Oh,
in.
okay.
Compartmentalizing helped me to survive, but
Yes.
finally accepting support and going to therapy has helped me to heal. But it took me
Yes.
years to come to terms and accept.
Yes. Yes. That's good. That you stayed on that journey. That's what it's all about. We're on that journey. Yes, exactly. So the power of self-compassion. Healing begins when we stop asking, what's wrong with me? And begin asking, what happened to me? Then we move toward an even more empowering question. What do I need now? I love it. So how would your healing change if you treated yourself with the same compassion you offer others? Now take a moment to truly reflect on this. I want you to really reflect on this sincerely. Think about how you respond when someone you care about is hurting. You listen without judgment, you offer encouragement, you even remind them of their strength. You give them grace that when they make mistakes. Now consider how often you extend that same kindness to yourself. Think about it. Think about it. How many times do we do that? Some of us, we do that every single day because we work in this field with survivors. We encourage them. We tell them to give themselves grace. We do all of that. But do we extend that same courtesy to ourselves? Think about it. You thinking about that? Because that's something that hit me heavy when I thought about that. For many of us, the inner voice we carry is far more critical than compassionate. Yeah, we're what grandma say, you're our own worst critics. We are. We replay our mistakes, we question our worth, and we hold ourselves to standards we could never expect from someone else. Why we do that? I don't know, but we do it. Be mindful of that. But healing deepens when we begin to replace self-criticism with self-compassion. You can be compassionate to yourself. I believe in self-compassion. Give yourself some grace in this. Treating yourself with compassion might look like speaking to yourself with kindness instead of harsh judgment. For example, instead of saying, I should be over this by now, you might say, I'm healing at my own pace, and that's okay. Allowing yourself to rest without guilt, just as you would encourage a friend to take a break when they are overwhelmed, you give yourself permission to pause, breathe, and restore. Honey, listen, when I tell you I would D&D my phone and I would go in my room and I will just do absolutely nothing, and I would tell you every movie I watched today, and I will sometimes post it and be like, this movie is wild. That is me taking care of myself and resting. I won't answer an email. I won't respond to nothing. You can text me. It will D&D. I take pride in that now because I have to take care of me. I have to take care of me. And I didn't used to do that, but now it's so vital and it's so important, and it feels so good when I get the necessary rest that I need without guilt. I don't feel bad at all, except when that grandkid come by. Sometimes like, ugh. But offering yourself forgiveness when you make mistakes. Forgive yourself. Rather than dwelling in shame, you acknowledge your humanity and remind yourself that growth comes with learning and perfection. Not perfection. I'm sorry. Yeah, I get stuck on perfection. And when you begin to treat yourself with the same care, patience, and understanding you offer others, about fixing yourself and more about nurturing yourself. So that's what we're doing now. We're nurturing ourselves, not just as survivors, but as workers in this capacity that deal with survivors. We are now nurturing ourselves when we realize the power of self-compassion. No more condemnation, self-condemnation when it comes to this. Ask yourself, you have the flyer. If not, we can send you a copy. Don't say what's wrong with me. Ask yourself, what happened to me? Do a deep reflection and ask yourself, what do I need now? So you can begin to feed that need and get out of that whole mindset that I don't deserve the same compassion that I offer to others. Healing requires hope. Healing is not just about reducing pain. It is an active process that reshapes how the brain and body responds to the world. Through intentional support, reflection, and growth, individuals can begin to rebuild a sense of safety and possibility. Over time, healing strengthens key areas of functioning that were impacted by trauma, allowing people to move forward with greater stability and confidence. Healing can strengthen our self-awareness, developing a deeper understanding of thoughts, triggers, and emotional patterns, which is amazing because now I understand that a lot of those things were triggers, and that something was not, in a sense, wrong with me. And the thoughts, the emotional part is someone saying something? Someone off mute? I'm sorry. And then healthy relationships, building trust,
To log into
setting
your
boundaries.
and claim it in the your points. You have to get it. They give you a certain. If you're that positive, you have to. In
think-
fact, you should do that.
Kayla, I think you're unmuted.
Or whatever it was to claim it. They give you a certain amount of points that you can claim that gift card.
Okay, so that's how it was. Okay.
Yeah, I
I
forgot
have
to tell you about
45.
that.
Yes. Well, I'm a positive too. I just got on there and got my.
Crystal. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry about that. Okay. Healthy relationships, building trust, setting boundaries, and forming meaningful connections. Confidence, restoring a sense of self-worth and belief in one's abilities. Hope, cultivating optimism and the belief that positive change is possible. And resilience, increasing the ability to adapt, recover, and grow from challenges. This process takes time and support, but each step forward contributes to rewiring the brain towards safety, connection, and hope. Healing does not erase the past. We're going to keep emphasizing that, but it can transform the way we respond to it. So that's why healing requires hope. It can strengthen what we went through is here. Remember, you are healing, you are becoming, and you are enough. It's not about going back to who you were. It's about becoming who you were meant to be. So this is a guided visualization. We're going to invite you to close your eyes if you feel comfortable for a moment and imagine yourself 5 years from now. Or if you can't close your eyes because you're working or something, but if you're driving, please don't close your eyes. But imagine yourself 5 years from now with your eyes closed. You are peaceful. You are healthy. You have healthy boundaries. You trust yourself. You laugh freely. You sleep peacefully. And you feel worthy. Now ask yourself, what does that future version of me want to thank today's version of me for doing? What does that future version of me want to thank today's version of me for doing? Just ask yourself that. And you are more than welcome to journal that, write that down. Think about it. You got your guided visualization. 5 years from now, you are peaceful, healthy, the boundaries are there, you trust yourself, you laugh freely. Now, today's version of you, what do you have to thank yourself in the future version of me? Want to thank today's version of you for that. Something to think about. In our reflection journal, I want you to complete the following statements. Survivor or not survivor, those who work with survivors, complete the following statements. Today I discovered one survival strategy I no longer need is one strength I recognize in myself is, and the future version of me would tell me. So I want you to do this reflection journal, 3 minutes. And if you want to drop something in the chat so Crystal can read it, 3 minutes. Today I discovered. One survival strategy I no longer need is. One strength I recognize in myself is. And the future version of me would tell me. today I discovered that I still need this type of, even though I am giving the class, I still need it for myself. I still need to hear it. I still need it as a reaffirming my work, reaffirming my voice, validating the importance of pouring into others as they pour into you. I discovered a lot from this, and I'm excited and humbled and honored to share that with you guys today, and that you took the time out to share it with me. But it's necessary. We should always remain intentional, but I also discovered that this work is absolutely necessary. There is never too much learning and discovering and reflection when it comes to doing this work, not only as a survivor, but with survivors, whatever the capacity we work with them in. These reflections, this work, these learnings, these classes, these confirmations, all of it is absolutely necessary. Did anybody else drop anything in the chat? Remember, I can't see anything. I'm not going to
Yeah,
touch
we
the
don't have
screen.
anything in the chat yet.
Okay.
I think one for my journaling survival strategy I no longer need was just over planning. Like every minute of my day used to
Yes.
just be like
Yes.
if I wasn't doing something or three
Something.
somethings at one time,
Yes.
it,
You'll
it
find
felt
stuff to
really
do.
weird. Yep. Washing dishes, washing clothes,
Yes.
and checking
Yes.
email. Like
Yes.
then I felt
Yes.
lazy. So
Yes. Yes. Agreed. Agreed. And you wonder, like, is this the ADHD or is this me in this this survival strategy that I'm using?
right.
Yes. Yes.
Nope, the chat is still quiet today.
Still quiet. Okay, we'll
Yeah.
move on then. So, my reflection. For years, I believe I had to become someone different in order to heal. What I eventually discovered was that healing wasn't about becoming someone else. It was about finding my way back to the woman God created me before trauma tried to rewrite my identity. I want you to just sit with that for a second, because that's exactly what trauma will do. It will try to rewrite your identity if you allow it to. And you
We
don't
have
have to be, you do, you got some, okay.
yes. Someone shared with us about their resiliency being a
Okay.
strength they can recognize. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Anything else?
That's it.
That's it? Okay. So, trauma may explain some of your behaviors, but it does not define your identity. But it does not define your identity. Healing begins the moment you believe your future is greater than your past. As we move beyond understanding trauma as just a memory, we begin to recognize how deeply it shapes the brain, body, and daily experiences, opening the door to awareness, compassion, and meaningful change. Remind you, we're not just speaking to survivors, we're speaking with those who work with survivors, because this trauma can also shape you and how you view things and how you see things and how you understand things. So we have to be mindful of that and have that same awareness, because we not only sometimes carry it, but we may respond or react in ways that are not becoming because of how we receive it or don't understand it. So that's why it's important that we understand this quote, that it may explain some of your behaviors, but it does not define your identity. And we don't want it to do that. Healing begins when the moment we believe that our future is greater than our past. And I forever believe that. Next module. Protecting your peace without apology. Woohoo! Those that didn't see my social media, see, this is my favorite thing to do. I'm going to protect my peace and I'm not going to apologize for it unapologetically. So that is me. We're going to learn to love yourself, be enough to protect you. Your healing is building while your healing is building. Healing does not end when we recognize our trauma. Healing continues as we learn to protect the life we are rebuilding. If you are rebuilding something, if you tear down a room and you have to rebuild it, you don't want all the interruptions and things coming in your way because you want to build perfectly, you want it right, you want to make sure the foundation is good. You know, if a storm is happening, if rain is coming, all the interruptions that try to stop you from rebuilding, you have to sometimes pause, takes breaks. You know, you have to cover it up, but protect it because you are in the midst of rebuilding. And so let's keep that same mindset with us, with our healing as survivors, and when the healing processes are working with other survivors of sexual violence. Healthy boundaries are not about controlling other people. They're about honoring our own values, protecting our emotional well-being, and creating relationships rooted in mutual respect. For many survivors, learning to set boundaries can feel uncomfortable because survival often requires silence, compliance, or people-pleasing. This module helps us reframe boundaries as acts of courage, self-respect, and healing. So hopefully by the end of this module, we will be able to explain the purpose of healthy boundaries, identify areas where stronger boundaries may be needed, practice communicating boundaries with confidence and compassion, and develop one actionable boundary that we can begin implementing this week, like today, if possible, okay? So every healthy boundary is a declaration that your healing deserves protection, right? What are boundaries? Did I click too fast? Yeah, I did click too fast. Let me go back. So boundaries are acts of healing. Every healthy boundary is a declaration of your healing deserves protection. And for many of us, boundaries weren't modeled growing up, if we're honest with ourselves. They weren't modeled growing up. We learned to survive by saying yes, staying quiet, or putting everyone else's need ahead of our own. Today, we're going to learn something different. It was not modeled. Parents out there, guardians that are, not the survivor, not the advocate, but parents and guardians, be mindful. Sometimes we have to model that with our children, our grandchildren, our nieces, our nephews, those that we love. They're watching us, and we have to model about boundaries, showing them, teaching them boundaries. When growing up, we can't expect the world to teach them everything, because if they do, we will be sorely disappointed on some of the things they learn. And unhealthy boundaries can definitely be one of them if we don't model it for ourselves to present to them. So what are boundaries? Healthy boundaries are the limits we establish to protect our emotional, physical, mental, relational, and spiritual well-being. Boundaries help us protect our peace by creating space between ourselves and situations or people that drain our emotional energy, allowing us to maintain calm, clarity, and stability in our daily lives. Let me tell you something. That was one that I struggled with because I didn't realize that I was actually protecting my peace. But what I realized was certain individuals were really draining me, where it was like I couldn't even answer the phone when I see them come across. And I wasn't on Do Not Disturb. I would talk to everybody else, but I'm like, oh my God, not today. I can't do it today. And I didn't realize that that draining was part of disturbing my peace. So I had to go back to certain relationships, and I had to set stricter boundaries with those individuals. And I had to speak up and let them know how I really felt in a loving way. Trust me, I had to pray about it first, because sometimes I can be crass because I'm so direct with how I speak to people. But I didn't, when I've allowed something to happen for so long, and obviously they were under the impression that it was okay to drain me in that manner, I felt that I had to go back and reroute and redirect and rebuild in those relationships to have a better understanding of what was allowed, and that I also respected their boundaries. So I really struggled with that because I didn't know I was losing peace behind that. But after that, I had more peace, and I have more peace even with those relationships now because we have a better understanding with that. It builds healthier relationships by establishing mutual respect where both individuals understand each other's limits and needs, leading to stronger and more balanced connections. It reduces resentment by preventing us from overextending ourselves or agreeing to things we do not truly want, which helps us avoid feelings of frustration or being taken advantage of. I know we're all guilty of that. And then we end up resenting people, and we didn't mean to resent them, but we didn't establish, a lot of times we didn't realize we didn't establish those healthy boundaries. And so this helps reduce resentment when we do that, because we'll overextend, and all we have to do sometimes is say no, or I can't, or I won't, or that's not in my scope of my work, but we do it, and then we end up resenting a lot of things. Sometimes we end up resenting the work itself. So increase self-respect by honoring your own needs. I can't emphasize that enough. Your values and your limits, reinforcing the belief that we are worthy of care. You are worthy of consideration and dignity, each and every one of you. No matter how low you feel you are on your totem pole, I'm just an intern here now learning about this, or I'm new to this. You still deserve all of that and above when it comes to the care, consideration, and dignity. Communicate expectations clearly, so others understand what is acceptable and what is not, reducing confusion, misunderstandings, and unnecessary conflict. That's why I'm the way I am. Sometimes people say overkill. Sometimes my husband say nagging, but I want to make sure you understand what I'm saying. And if you didn't understand me, let me tell you again. I may say, did you understand that? Do you understand me? Did you get it? Because I want us to have that mutual respect to remain with each other. And you not understanding me, or I misunderstand you. And sometimes if I don't understand you and I say, explain to me, like I'm 2 years old, I'm not being funny. I just really want to make sure I have a clear understanding. I want us to all remain respectful and mutual one another. So communicate that clearly. Support long-term healing by protecting the emotional progress we have made, ensuring that we do not return to patterns or environments that hinder our growth. Because that's easy to do, to return. It's real easy to return to those things. So support those long-term healing, the healing ideas of program progress we have already made. Protect it. Try not to go backwards, but try to protect what you've already built as you continue to rebuild what you've gone through. Boundaries are not walls that keep people out. They are not walls that keep people out. They are not walls that keep people out. They are gates that help us decide what and who we allow in our lives. They are not walls to keep people out. Don't say, Lavinia, say, put a wall up. And I say that because that's what I did. I thought boundaries was putting a wall up, and just keeping people out, just kick them out. No, it's the gates that help us decide. A wall is almost permanent. That gate, I can open that gate up, and I can decide what and who I allow in my life. That's what a boundary is. The common myths about boundaries. Many people hesitate to set boundaries because they believe boundaries are selfish, and putting their own needs first means they are neglecting others. Boundaries are rude, and expressing limits will come across as disrespectful or unkind. Boundaries hurt people, and saying no will damage relationships or cause emotional pain. Good people always say yes, and being agreeable is the only way to be seen as loving or supportive. Saying no means I don't care, and declining a request will make others feel rejected or unimportant. If I set boundaries, people will leave me, and maintaining connection requires a constant accommodation. Lies. It's common myths about boundaries. So we're going to reframe the truth about it. Healthy boundaries honor both yourself and others by recognizing that everyone's needs and limits matter. Strengthen trust through honest communication, allowing relationships to be built on clarity rather than assumptions. Protect relationships from resentment by preventing burnout and unspoken frustration. Healthy boundaries create space for mutual respect, where both individuals feel valued and heard, and it also reflects emotional maturity, not selfishness, by demonstrating self-awareness and responsibility for one's well-being. So today we are going to debunk the myths about boundaries and stop allowing us to keep us trapped in that mindset. And we're going to reframe the truth when it comes to interacting with others as a survivor, as those that work with survivors of sexual violence, as navigating life, period. They are not walls. They are windows to healthier living. That's what boundaries are. They are not walls. Healthy boundaries are an act of love for yourself first and for others. Always remember that. The 5 areas of healthy boundaries: emotional boundaries, protecting your feelings, energy, and emotional safety. Your physical boundaries, respecting personal space, privacy, touch, safety. Listen, there is nothing wrong with telling a person or asking a person first, may I hug you, may I touch? I got a bad habit of hugging folks, but there's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong if you're not a hugger, if you don't like people embracing you, you're not comfortable with people touching you, that you express that to them. That way we can remain respectful in that relationship, in that conversation, in that healing process, or whatever it is. So always remember that it's not mean, you're not being inconsiderate. I know I may have been through a lot. I may be seeing you sorry for me, but if you're not in that space where you're touchy-feely or what have you, you have every right to express that healthy boundary. It's very healthy. So respecting space, privacy, touch, and safety. Mental boundaries, honoring your thoughts, your opinions, your values, and beliefs. I believe honoring everybody's thoughts, values, and opinions. Because I have mine. And guess what? I'm gonna let you know how I feel about stuff. So I kindly ask that you respect mine as I respect yours, because I will, and I will tell you, and rightfully so. And you may say, Lavinia, my opinion, and I agree. I agree. I accept your opinion or what have you, but I'm going to respect that. But this is how I feel. I'm gonna let you know how I feel. Then that way we can mutually come to some sort of agreement if it's something that we have to meet in the middle on. But that's perfectly healthy of doing that, honoring your own thoughts, your opinions, your values, and your belief. I don't force my beliefs on anyone. I have a strong faith in God, many don't. Whatever your belief is, I honor that. I honor your belief. That's why I just say whatever your spiritual, if you have a spiritual journey, that's you. I honor and I respect that. I would never try to force anything on anybody, but I will tell you about my journey, my beliefs, and my spirituality is what I believe in. And I expect others to respect that as well. And we keep it all healthy. So that is the whole thing about healthy boundaries. Healthy boundaries empower you to love others without abandoning yourself. And that's what I do. I love people now, where I used to literally say I hate people because I thought people were all alike, until I learned not only to love myself, I learned how to speak and use my voice. Then I learned about boundaries, healthy boundaries. So now I'm empowered to love others without abandoning myself. And I hope you guys do the same, because you matter, your peace matters, and your boundaries matter. So we have a boundary self-assessment. Ooh. So quickly here. A self-assessment. I need you to rate yourself. 1 means rarely to 5 always. And I'm going to read each reflection. You don't have to say it out loud. If you want to drop it in the chat, you can. But I just want you to think about these. I can say no without excessive guilt. 1 rarely, 2 sometimes, 3 neutral, 4 often, 5 always. I would honestly say 4. I can say no without excessive guilt. 4, because I can't do it always. Next, I ask for what I need. 3, neutral. I don't know. I still kind of struggle sometimes with that. I protect my personal time. I can honestly say 5, always now. I'm pretty good at that. I've gotten good. I'm proud of myself, I can honestly say. I communicate when I feel uncomfortable. 4. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I do not apologize for having healthy limits. 5. I'm there. I do not apologize anymore. I do not. I leave unhealthy conversations. 5, I do not gossip. I do not tear other folks down. I do not approve of that. I am not that person. I feel if you have an issue with someone, you should speak to that individual personally. If you can't come to some kind of agreement, you find someone to go with you before you discover you may have to sever a relationship or whatever the case, or even if it's in your job, you have to escalate it to another level where it can be resolved. But that is me. I do not get involved in unhealthy conversations. People don't call me with those conversations. Because they know me. I'm not that person. I can't call Lavinia and bash someone else, do a character assassination on them. I do not. I just don't. Some stuff on social media, some stuff is funny, some stuff is not funny. Attacking someone's character, especially when you don't know something about them, even if you know something about them, if you got issues with them, work the issues out. Bringing people to public shame on certain things is unnecessary. So I am strong 5 of leaving unhealthy conversations. I will not indulge with you. I recognize when relationships are no longer healthy. 4, often, honestly. Sometimes I still don't realize until something really slapped me in my face and I'm like, wow. And then I go through that cycle. I should have known better, beating myself up till I get back to my boundaries and my healthy boundaries. And I prioritize my emotional well-being. 4, I still often, but still sometimes I find myself slipping. So I hope everybody was able to be honest with themselves in their own boundary self-assessment, because I wanted you to understand which life you currently needs more attention, and what signs or experiences have helped you recognize this need. Consider how this area has been affecting your thoughts, your emotions, your relationships, or daily functioning, and reflect on what might begin to shift if you intentionally focus on nurturing and supporting it. So on your off time, if anybody had anything in the chat, like I said, I didn't see, I can't see, but if Crystal, if anybody, you want to read anything quickly, you can. If not, we'll go to the next one.
Yeah, we had lots of audience participation,
Oh, we
answers
did?
that
Okay.
were ranging. I want to know a lot of y'all got to 5s on a lot of these answers. So
Okay.
I want to sit and have coffee with y'all and
I
learn
know,
how
right?
so many people got to 5s on so many of these, because that's amazing. That's some
That is amazing.
coping
That's good.
skills.
Kudos
Yeah.
for you. I love it. I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. Yes. So we are at why boundaries feel difficult. Many survivors struggle with boundaries because their early experiences taught them that safety, acceptance, and love were conditional rather than freely given. Wow. Over time, these lessons became deeply ingrained patterns that shaped how we relate to others to others and to themselves. You may have learned love had to be earned through performance, obedience, or self-sacrifice rather than being received unconditionally. Yeah, that was me. Conflict was unsafe, leading them to avoid disagreement at all costs to prevent rejection, punishment, or emotional harm. Your needs didn't matter, causing you to minimize, ignore your own feelings in order to prioritize others. Pleasing others kept you safe, reinforcing patterns of people pleasing as a survival strategy rather than a genuine choice. So a lot of times we have to be mindful. We're not even making that choice anymore. We're going back into those patterns when we feel our voices have been ignored or dismissed, and we have to take back control of that. And saying no had consequences, such as withdrawal or affection, anger or abandonment, which created fear around asserting limits. And that happened to me when I felt that if I said no, I find myself being withdrawn and going back into the survival mode because I didn't want this individual or this group of people to feel a certain way about me or rejecting me or would never call on me again because of that. And so that's why sometimes we struggle with those boundaries and the things we've learned from it. But if boundaries feel uncomfortable, it doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. That's what I had to learn. It may simply mean you're doing something you've never been given permission to do. It feels uncomfortable. If it feels uncomfortable, I'm going to say that again. It doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It simply means you're doing something you've never been given permission to do. And that's to love without feeling it has to be earned. That's to be able to resolve conflict and a conflict resolution, understanding your needs do matter, pleasing others. You don't have to please others to feel safe. Your voice does not have to be ignored. It is heard, and saying you can say no. So boundaries in action. A friend constantly expects you to solve their problems, but never asks you how you're doing. This is a scenario discussion I want to have. How might you respond in a healthy way? What an unhealthy response may look like? Sure. Tell me everything, even though you feel drained and unheard. Now, I saw when I was able to get to chat earlier, a lot of people were saying, exhausted, 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 exhausted. And I know that feeling oh too well. So how we do these things, these unhealthy responses when it comes to boundaries, and we'll say, sure, tell me everything. When in actuality, I am mentally drained. I'm tired. My leg hurt, my back hurt. This happening, that's going on. My chicken burning, everything happening right now. But sure, tell me everything. That was very unhealthy for me to do, that response. But what a healthy boundary might sound like is, I care about you. I truly do. But I'm not in a place right now to take time on this. Can we talk another time? There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And if they say, well, it's a dire emergency, is it something that you need to call the police for? We can dial 911. Do you need to go to the hospital, an ambulance? Make sure, of course, we want to make sure that they are safe in that aspect. But if not, if it's something where we are just overwhelmed ourselves or we are setting those healthy boundaries, we can find healthy ways to respond to individuals when we are in a space where we're not ready to, or we're not capable or mentally capable in that space to respond healthy for them. We give them unhealthy responses instead. So I had some additional, did anybody have a response? I had some additional scenarios of a family scenario I want to drop on you. A family member frequently criticizes your life choices. Ooh, how many of us have those? An unhealthy response could be staying silent and internalizing the criticism. How many of us do that? It's our family. They're supposed to tell us about our life, right? Especially mama. Not knocking mama, but I'm just saying, sometimes we have to put those boundaries down with our family. And we have to say, I respect your opinion, but I need you to speak to me with respect. If that can't happen, I'll need to step away from this conversation. That is perfectly fine. Because if not, what happens? We can escalate and it can blow all out of proportion with our family, and you hear it every single day. Family members are fighting one another. They post it on internet, social media. They're shooting each other. They're doing all kind of unhealthy things because they have not been able to set those healthy boundaries and have those conversations with family members to say, I respect your opinion, but I also respect myself enough to know what's best for me. And we have to be mindful of that power that we all have. And we also, which takes us back to when we say we have to model this with those who look up to us, our young folks, our children, our grandchildren, our nieces, our nephews, those who watch us every day. How do we handle our boundaries, and how do we show examples of boundaries when they see us interacting with others, with family members, with loved ones? A coworker scenario. A coworker regularly asks you to complete their task. Ooh, I know I have worked in corporate America in about 30 years, but That was one of the things they always did to me. An unhealthy response was saying yes every time, even when I was overwhelmed. And I did that. And then I leave there mad, angry, frustrated, and everything else. But the healthy boundary should have been that I'm currently focused on my own responsibilities and won't be able to take that on right now. You weren't rude, you were honest with them. You have boundaries set. And when they see that you're going to set your boundaries and honor your own boundaries, people will begin to respect your boundaries as well, or they won't bother you at all, which sometimes that's good, right? And then the friendship scenario. Let's do the friendship. Some of our friends, we're so close to them, and sometimes we're so used to letting them have their way with us that we don't know how to say no. But a friend can only reaches out. Oh, how many of us have friends like this? Only reaches out when they need something. Only reaches out when they need something. An unhealthy response is we always respond immediately and giving support without any reciprocity. I can't say, my tongue is dry at all. But we just do it. A healthy boundary is I value our friendship, but I've noticed I'm often only contacted when something is needed. I like us to build a more balanced connection. Let me tell you something. That I didn't say it exactly like that, but I did say I value our friendship. And I did say I noticed. I may have said a little bit more harsh when I had to tell one individual this. Uh, because what happened was I was snapping, but I was coming out the snap. I had to catch myself because in that instant when they reached out to me, I was going through a lot of things, and I'm like, this only call me when you need something is what my mindset. But I had to calm down and I had to breathe in that conversation. But I let them know. And they were a little bit irritated at first that I did that to them. And they sent me, instead of telling me on the phone, they sent me a text that they were saddened that I viewed our friendship in that way and da da da. And so I read it and I didn't respond immediately because I didn't want to go back and forth. But they eventually responded like 3 days later. And they were like, "Are you still there?" And I'm like, and I responded, "Yes, I am." But I was taking a moment before I responded to your last text. And in that text, they said, "Can I call you?" And I said, "Sure." So they called me and they apologized and they said, "You're right." And I was deeply moved by that, and ever since then, we have started to really build a better connection. We've known each other forever, but it's like we can go, and I don't have to talk to you every day. I can go months, without talking. I can even go years, but when we catch up, it's like I want us to catch up having fun, not just, oh, let me call because I need this. Let me reach out. She's going to always meet my needs. And there is nothing, absolutely nothing wrong with that. Okay. And my phone is trying to make me download stuff again. So if anybody have any, Crystal, was there any chats or any examples someone wanted to give insights on that?
Yeah, I think there's one that's probably really good for us to think
Okay.
about because this is great
Okay.
feedback. I realized that when I would hear some of those healthy responses coming from others, like setting boundaries with them,
Yes. Yes.
I would immediately think they just don't care or couldn't be counted
Mm.
on. I'm
Hmm.
glad I learned that this isn't always true. I
Yes.
will be more aware and appreciative when I get
Yes.
these responses, right?
Yes.
So,
Yes. Yes. That's awesome. I love that. I love that because it does. That's what it does. It raises awareness and it puts us in that compassionate where we're actually putting ourselves in somebody else's shoes. And you don't know what they're struggling with or how hard it is for them to get to that part of their healing journey of setting those boundaries because they are used to overwhelming themselves or burnout and things they're trying to protect and rebuild in their lives. So I absolutely love that response. Amazing. Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing because boundaries are not about pushing people away. They're about protecting what matters the most, and that's you. So they have to take care of themselves just like you have to take care of yourself. So healthy boundary statements. seem so simple and so easy, but sometimes they just don't roll off like we need them to. But examples we can adapt. I'm not available for that today. I need some time before responding. I need some time that doesn't work, or that doesn't work for me. I appreciate your perspective, but I see it differently. I care about you, but I cannot carry this responsibility for you. My healing requires me to make different choices. So think about those healthy boundary statements and examples that you can adapt in your daily life, your daily work, your daily healing. Think about those statements, because healthy boundaries aren't about pushing people away. They're about protecting your peace so you can show up in your purpose, because you still have a purpose. You're not pushing them away. So with that, thinking about those statements, we're going to go into an interactive exercise of my boundary blueprint. So I want you to complete the following. I want you to complete the following, and I'm going to give you 5 minutes on this one. One relationship that needs healthier boundaries. Think about it and write it down. One conversation I need to have. Some of us, there's a conversation we need to have with someone. Think about it and write it down. One behavior I will no longer accept. Some of us have really struggled with the behavior that someone performs around us in our space, and those boundaries are being violated. So think about that person or that behavior, even if it's from yourself. One boundary I will begin practicing this week. I'm going to begin practicing this boundary. This is going to be my boundary blueprint. So I'm going to allow you 5 minutes to complete this your responses, and encourage your honesty without pressure to share. But if you want to share, please put it in chat so Crystal can read it. But take about 5 minutes, honestly, sincerely. This is your boundary blueprint. Complete it. Remember, you have the right to protect your peace, and they are not walls, they are wisdom. So encourage honesty and self-compassion. Remind you to create freedom, not guilt. And I want to give you that 5 minutes to reflect and optional sharing, and affirm every step toward protecting your well-being. Your healing is your responsibility. Your boundaries are your protection. Your future is your power. So the clock is ticking.
All right. And Lavinia, just so you know, it is 10:55, so we'll get close to wrapping up here in a little bit.
Okay. So is our time up already? Oh my goodness. I don't have another hour.
I know we flew through this one.
We did. Oh my goodness. Well, you guys just do your boundary blueprint, because we do have to wrap up at 12.
Yes, we could go to
Okay.
about maybe 12:05, but I know folks
Okay.
gotta get to
Because you said
lunch or go back to
10:55.
work.
You said 10:55, and I was like, wait a minute.
Oh,
Okay.
I said
Okay.
no. I said, did I say 10? I meant to say 11. I
11,
swear I
okay.
was
You know, it don't take much to confuse
Oh.
me now. Okay. So keep your boundary blueprint and write your stuff down, because you're going to work on that this week. That's self-reflection. And then my reflection is, I once believed protecting my peace meant I was being selfish. Healing taught me something different. Every boundary I set wasn't pushing people away. It was making room for the woman God was restoring me to become. So I want you to sit with that. And I want you to finish this sentence. Today, I give myself permission to. Finish that sentence. You give yourself permission to. And in that closing declaration, I want you to read it together or read it to yourself. But we're going to read it together. I'm just going to act like I hear you, okay? I deserve relationships that honor my dignity. I deserve peace without guilt. I deserve to say yes with joy and no with confidence. I deserve to protect the healing that I have worked so hard to build. My boundaries are not barriers to love. They are expressions of self-respect. You are choosing you are choosing peace, and you are honoring your healing. Transitioning to the next module, Becoming whole, healing is not becoming something new. Healing is becoming who trauma tried to convince you could never be. What does wholeness look like? I'm gonna see if I can skip some of my notes because I got a lot of notes on this, but we're gonna try to just dive right into what wholeness looks like. Healing is not just simply the absence of pain, it is the presence of purpose, peace, self-worth, and hope. Many survivors spend years believing their goal is simply to survive, but surviving is not the destination, surviving is the beginning. This final module invites participants to move beyond merely existing and begin intentionally creating a life rooted in wholeness, resilience, faith, and purpose. Hopefully, we will leave with a personal healing blueprint, a declaration of hope, and the practical commitments that can begin immediately. So becoming whole is not becoming someone new. Healing is becoming who trauma tried to convince us we could never be. So everything we've discussed today has been preparing us for this moment, and we got to get through it. Whew. What does wholeness look like? Wholeness does not mean you're never hurting again. It does not mean you're never being triggered again. It doesn't mean you'll never struggle again. It doesn't mean you'll never cry again. It doesn't mean you'll never need support. Wholeness means living with hope. Wholeness looks like knowing your worth. Wholeness looks like setting healthy boundaries. Wholeness looks like loving yourself, receiving love, trusting God again, choosing peace, and to continue to grow. Healing isn't perfection. Healing is progress. Wholeness is a journey, not perfection. Wholeness is not the absence of scars, but the presence of healing, purpose, and peace. The HEAL framework, a pathway to healing, a journey to purpose. Take this framework. You can use it for your survivors you work with. You can use it for yourself. If you're a survivor, you can use it for yourself, just navigating everyday life. H, honor your story. Your story deserves compassion, not shame. Your past shaped you. It does not define you. E, embrace your worth. You were valuable before the trauma. You were valuable today. You will always have value. A, align with truth. Replace lies with truth. Replace fear with courage. Replace shame with grace. L, live with purpose. Healing isn't simply about recovering. Healing is about living. I'm going to walk you through each letter slowly, encourage you journaling after each section, which we don't have time to do all of that. You can journal on your own time frame, but you have the framework. Heal the past, embrace the present, live the purpose. You are worthy, you are whole, you are healing, H-E-A-L-ing. Healing isn't one decision. It has many small decisions, and healing is a daily choice. Healing and so every day we choose to what? Rest. If it's prayer or if it's meditation, counseling, boundaries, healthy relationships, gratitude, joy, and hope. Small decisions become transformed lives. It's not one decision. It's these small decisions. They will transform your life if you choose your healing daily. Choose yourself. Survivor or another individual, choose yourself daily. My healing blueprint, this is something for you. You take your blueprint on your time, you complete your mind, what thought patterns need healing, your heart, what emotions need compassion, your relationships, what relationships strengthen you, your faith, how can you reconnect spiritually, your purpose, why am I called toward? What are you called toward? And your next step, what will I do this week? We don't have time for the facilitation or play the music, but it's nice music that you can always go to. Like I said, I can send it to, and it played anyway. But healing with intention, living with purpose. I choose me, I choose healing. Guided reflections is, I'll tell you, close your eyes once again. Imagine waking up 1 year from today, 1 year, not 5 years. You feel peace, you feel confidence, you feel joy, freedom, you trust yourself, you love yourself, you smile more, you laugh freely. Then ask yourself, what decisions did I make over the past year that created this life? Pause, journal, do this in your own time because that's taking care of you. So from 1 year today, I want you to look back, remember me, and think about you are living the life that you have prayed for, that you've worked for, and that you've studied so hard to set. My reflection: for years, I prayed for justice. God gave me purpose. I prayed for answers. God gave me healing. I prayed for my past to disappear. God showed me how my story would become someone else's hope. And that's what I pray I'm giving today. Today, I understand that healing isn't about forgetting where I've been or where you've been. It's about refusing to let your past determine where you're going. My personal commitment: I want you to finish these statements and do your journaling at home, at work, or whatever. Today, I choose. What do you choose today? What do you release? I will forgive whom or what or how. I will protect and I believe. Remember, I choose healing. I choose me. I am becoming everything I prayed for, everything I'm destined to be. New day, new choices, new beginning. I choose me. Today, I declare, reading this together before we get ready to go, I am not my trauma. I am not my shame. I am not my silence. I am worthy. I am resilient. I am healing. I'm becoming whole. I choose peace. I choose healthy boundaries. I choose hope. I choose courage. I choose purpose. And I choose to live fully. And beginning today, if you've never said this to yourself, I choose me. I'm stronger than my past, and I believe and braver because of it. I'm healing. I'm growing. I'm becoming everything I was created to be. I am enough. I am worthy. I choose me. And because I'm a woman of faith, I believe he heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. Healing is not the absence of scars. Healing is learning that your scars no longer have the final word. I was broken but not defeated, scars but still chosen, healed by grace and living my purpose. My closing blessing to you. First, I want to thank you again for your time. Those that are still hanging out, may you leave here today knowing that you are deeply loved, incredibly resilient, and worthy of healing. May you extend yourself some compassion you so freely offer to others. May you have the courage to protect your peace, honor your boundaries, and continue choosing hope, even on the difficult days. May your story remind you not of what was taken from you, but of the strength that carries you this far and the purpose that still lies ahead. May your healing become a light that encourages someone else to believe healing is possible. Thank you again. Email, reach out to Crystal, send me messages. Thank you for allowing me to walk beside you today as a survivor, as an advocate, as law enforcement, as a worker, whomever you are in that capacity. Remember, your healing is not found in pretending the pain never happened. Your healing is found in discovering that the pain no longer controls who you become. You are worthy, you are healing, you are becoming. I see you, I believe you, and I celebrate you all. Thank you so much.
All
Stay
right. Thank
connected.
you, everyone. You
Thank
can
you.
follow Lavinia on social media. I know she's on quite a few avenues and channels. So thanks again for being here today. I know many of us are taking a holiday break this week, so I hope you have some time for rest and self-care and do something wonderful and fun. We will see you back next week on July 8th at lunchtime. That's going to be a lunch and learn session with Melissa on survivor autonomy. And then we will take a small break and see you at the end of the month for another half-day training on working with male survivors with Jesse. So if you are not on our mailing list, you can go on our website and you can sign up to be on our contact list so you can get notifications and emails about webinars. Follow us on social media. We post on LinkedIn, we post on Facebook and our Instagram accounts with all of our upcoming webinars and other trainings and ongoings. Today's session has been recorded, so it will be available on YouTube probably in the next couple weeks. We also have a follow-up email going out with all your continuing education email information and a copy of the slides just in case you did not get a copy of those today while we were in today's session. So you all have a great lunch, take a break, take care, and we'll see you back next week.
Thank you again. Have an amazing rest of your week.